The governor of Texas has issued a statement with a formal letter that the president of the United States has violated his oath of office, and they are actively committing crimes. For this, Texas has declared its right to self-defense of its border, declaring supremacy over the jurisdiction. They're saying that Texas's right to self-defense supersedes federal orders. Oh boy. There are now many prominent leftists calling for accountability. In fact, one Democrat has once again asserted the federal government should seize the Texas National Guard. Oh, man. You know, when we talk about the hyperpolarization in this country and what it could bubble up into, we are now looking at the rather rare and shocking circumstance of the state National Guard of Texas armed in opposition to federal agents. Where this one goes. Well, we've been talking about this one quite a bit, so we're going to talk about that quite a bit more. And there is a bunch of other news. They're trying to stop Donald Trump from being able to conduct business in New York, citing the Martin Shkreli case. So this should be very, very interesting. Of course, Nikki Haley's refusing to drop out. But along with the story out of Texas, this one's taking the cake today because Oklahoma has declared they will stand with Texas. And Ron DeSantis has also spoken up as the governor of Florida in defense of Texas. So we got a whole lot going on. Now, before we get into all that, my friends, head over to castbrew.com to buy the best cup of coffee you will ever have. It's so good, in fact, that Appalachian Nights is sold out of our K-Cups and our ground, but it is still available in whole bean coffee. Now, of course, Rise with Roberto Jr., our second most popular blend. It's a light roast. It's available in ground, and the K-Cups are available. But always, don't forget, Alex Stein's Primetime Grind, 2 times caffeine coffee for those that like a little bit of edge with their coffee. Drink responsibly, my friends. When you buy Cast Brew coffee, not only are you getting the best cup of coffee you will ever have, considering we've sold out of Appalachian Nights, people really love the stuff. Thank you so much. But you'll be supporting the show. So if you want to support the work we do, we sponsor ourselves. Cast Brew is the way to do it. You're also supporting our endeavor to launch coffee shops, we have one currently under construction. Also, head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member to support our work directly. And you'll get access to our Discord server and our members only uncensored shows, which come Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. And you as members can actually call in, talk to us and our guests. So don't forget to also smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share this show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Morgonn McMichael.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
Who are you? What do you do?
I am a Turning Point USA contributor. I live out in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm from Texas, so I'm super excited to talk about this border crisis and everything that's going on because it's absolutely absurd that our border is wide open. And I have been talking in political media for about 2 years. I'm 24, young Gen Zer, so excited to bring the Gen Z perspective.
Right on. We'll definitely talk about that with the election coming up. Should be interesting.
Absolutely.
We got Phil hanging out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I am a very failed musician, anti-communist, and counter-revolutionary.
Say it loud, brother.
I am.
You are rock and roll. You are gold packaged content creator all the way.
That's right.
We were making fun of that term,
content creator.
When they started calling stuff content. Let's make some good content tonight, Serge. What's happening, bro?
Yeah, let's be content machines. Shout out to those guys. By the way,
That's Ian, by the way.
Content.
He didn't even introduce himself.
Oh,
to
yeah,
me.
Ian.
He needs no introduction.
That's right.
At Ian Crossland. I'm at Serge.com. Let's get into it, Tim.
Here's a story from SCNR.com. Governor Abbott, Texas' right to self-defense supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. Texas Governor Greg Abbott invoked America's founding fathers while vowing to continue to secure Texas' border in a new statement. His message comes 2 days after the United States Supreme Court ruled the federal government could remove razor wire along the Rio Grande installed by the state to deter illegal immigration and drug trafficking. As the Biden administration's appeal makes its way through the court, Texas responded by installing more razor wire on January 23rd. Quote, "The federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now. President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them." Abbott says Biden has smashed records for illegal immigration and ignored Texas's demand that he perform his constitutional duties. Continuing, President Biden has violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress. Instead of prosecuting immigrants for the federal crime of illegal entry, President Biden has sent his lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow their en masse parole into the United States. By wasting taxpayer dollars to tear open Texas's border security infrastructure, President Biden has enticed illegal immigrants from the 28 legal points of entry along the state's southern border, bridges where nobody drowns, and into the dangerous water of the Rio Grande. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters during a briefing on January 23rd, the Biden administration was certainly glad the Supreme Court had permitted the federal government to remove the razor wire, which she called ineffective. Approximately 6 million illegal immigrants have entered the United States during Biden's 3 years in office. So what we're seeing right now, New York is freaking out. Eric Adams says the immigration crisis will destroy the city. Mayor Brandon Johnson has been accused, reportedly, there's a reporter who has asserted, I'm very careful with my language here, he has suffered panic attacks and had to be hospitalized because the immigration crisis, or as the immigration crisis is expanding rapidly in the city. And there are many communities in Chicago, many black communities that are in uproar over the resources being given out to these migrants. So when you have major Democrat strongholds outraged over the immigration crisis, Joe Biden publicly admitting the border is not secure while actively trying to make it less secure, I don't know what you call this, a rogue executive branch engaged in criminal activities, accused by Texas, the second largest state in the union, of violating the law. Now, we have videos. Let me see if I can pull up one of these videos here. There's the letter. Here we go. Take a look at this from Chuck Calesto. The Texas National Guard filmed marching where I believe this is near Eagle Pass. It just says Texas National Guard. And there have been many responses to this. In fact, I believe we have the Governor Kevin Stitt of Oklahoma saying Oklahoma stands with Texas. Ron DeSantis, of course, said, if the Constitution really made states powerless to defend themselves against an invasion, it wouldn't have been ratified in the first place, and Texas would have never joined the union when it did. Texas is upholding the law while Biden is flouting it. Florida will keep assisting Texas with personnel and assets. So this is going to get interesting. Where are we currently at? 3 states, Florida, Oklahoma, and Texas, are aligned. Texas is declaring supremacy over the border jurisdiction. The question then that we've been asking for the past several days, will the federal government actually make moves against the Texas National Guard?
I don't think so. Showing that Oklahoma and Florida are willing to stand by the Texas National Guard and the Texas government is fulfilling. And it's also indicative that, like, any state that sits by and watches their federal government seize control of their own state troops has got to be like, hell no. We can't let the federal government go rogue. Rogue is a nice term. Can't let the federal government overstep its bounds and seize our own state soldiers. Like, those guys pledge an oath to the state to defend and preserve the state. They're not the federal government's troops.
I'm not sure if the Guard does that or not. I don't know how.
Constitution, most likely. But the federal government is rogue completely.
Yeah.
The Biden administration is a rogue agency at this point. This is a fact. When the Biden administration is breaking the law to the extent that Democrats are upset about it, despite the fact they'll defend him for re-election because these people are insane. But when you have major cities, there is a plurality of those polled saying immigration is the most pressing issue.
Yeah.
And people in these cities that are Democrat left-leaning are freaking out. This is the unifying force. I mean, perhaps we're getting Joe Biden's pulling off an Ozymandias, for those who get the reference. He is deciding to become the supervillain that will unify blue and red states against him. Maybe by the time the election comes up, the immigration problem will be so bad that blue states will beg Donald Trump to help save them.
Maybe somebody is doing that through Biden. They're creating an Ozymandias situation where, like, we're just going to make Biden the worst of the worst so that we can actually unify the country because Trump ain't getting it done.
For those that don't know the reference, Ozymandias is the villain in the Watchmen graphic novel who stages an alien invasion to force the Cold War nations to unite against a common enemy. And so I don't believe that to be the case. I don't believe that there is anybody smart enough, or I genuinely believe this is completely in line with what Democrats have been doing for some time. And even though you have blue cities in major blue states in uproar over this, these people are still blaming Republicans and they're still backing Joe Biden.
I talk to my parents and I bring them up as just kind of general normie, watch the MSNBC, but they're very smart. They're very adaptable to new information, but they tend to watch just the TV instead of the internet for their news. They don't. And I was like, this immigration thing is horrific. And they're like, yeah, it is horrific. Both of them. And they get their news from like MSNBC, but they were like, is absolutely, it's too far. Like, what in the hell is happening kind of thing. Like, easily that I could probably convince them to not vote for the guy that's causing it to happen.
This is going to be the issue that I think Gen Z is going to really wake up to too, because once they see that these immigrants are the ones that are taking spaces in America, taking over the cities, our cities are increasing in crime, and your tax dollars are directly funding the immigration crisis as well. I mean, Texas had no other choice but to enact Article 1, Section 10 in the Constitution because the federal government isn't doing anything about it. And honestly, the federal government hates American people more than Democrats, I think, hate American people, because they're the ones that are creating this havoc in our country. And I mean, I saw a poll that immigration is a bigger issue going into the election cycle more than inflation. And I mean, we're seeing inflation rates skyrocket, but I think people are finally starting to understand, like, oh my gosh, our border really is open. And what Kareem Jean-Pierre Presek said, if it was ineffective, then why move it?
Inflation is a byproduct of immigration.
Yeah.
Mass migration results. I mean, look, by standard economics, mass migration, they even say it will create demand. So you're going to have a ton of people demanding more and more and more. You're going to drive prices up. But the best way to explain it, we talked about this before, and you can give me your thoughts as someone who is Gen Z. I watched this video where it was this Gen Z guy being like, welcome to a New York micro apartment, $2,000 a month for like 70 square feet. It's 5.5 feet wide and 10 feet deep. So we're talking like, 55 square feet, and it's got a sink, no bathroom, nothing else, a single window. And if you want to use the bathroom, it's shared in the hallway, $2,000, $2,000 per month. And so I think what we're seeing now, the reason why Donald Trump is getting a lot of Gen Z support, and he is, several polls have him up with Gen Z, which is crazy. Look, if you're a boomer, it's real easy to be a boomer and have access to wealth. On average, boomers have more access than Gen Z does. For obvious reasons, you're older, you've got a savings, you've got a retirement or something. So you're likely living in a house or an apartment or condo or something like that. Gen Z is trying to move into places, and they're running up against a wall.
They can't afford it.
At the same time, they can't afford it. Guess what's happening in New York City? Illegal immigrants are being given hotel rooms. They're given free money, free places to stay. Now imagine this. Imagine you're 22, 24. Hey, you are 24. You're fresh out of college. You got a degree like they told you to get. You can't find a job, and you're standing outside with your little, attaché case holding your resumes, and there's an illegal immigrant buying free food and going into their hotel room with a bed, a TV, a bathroom, and security, private security. And you're like, maybe if I'm lucky, I can get one of those shoebox pods to live in. You know what's going to happen? They're going to be like, I'm voting for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's the you will own nothing and be happy mentality, because when you get an entire generation who simply cannot afford on their salaries to even save up money to then even invest in property, they're going to rent for the rest of their lives. And it's true. I mean, these immigrants are getting everything handed to them. I mean, now in New York, free health care. In California, you have Medi-Cal, where 700,000 migrants were approved to get free taxpayer dollar paid health care. I mean, these people are walking across the border with absolutely no consequences, with a court date that's 2 years out, phones paid for by us, and they're getting more amenities than your college graduate who's $60, $70, $100,000 in debt and will never be able to pay that off.
We got to do like a Curb Your Enthusiasm style joke or something about an illegal immigrant in this nice hotel with a comfortable bed and a TV, and then the hardworking guy is like living in the pod and eating bugs.
Because he hires him to clean his toilet or something.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they're living the American dream more than Americans are.
Yeah.
It's really when you see it with your own eyes is when things start to change. Like, I can imagine residents in New York walking down 42nd Street to go to work, where they're getting paid like $16 an hour, and they have to step over homeless people, obviously. And then you find out that there's people that don't speak English staying in these hotels. Like, I remember in LA in 2008, I had friends that were illegal immigrants that were working at the restaurant I was working at and working in the environment, and they were getting put up in like $400 a month hotels where I was paying $1,200 or $1,300 a month for mine. And I was just, the jealousy in me from that was like, rampant. I had to check myself. I'm like, no, they're getting an opportunity. But if you saw that in mass, I could imagine like what in the hell is going on.
It shouldn't take one state busing thousands of people to other states so that way the other states feel the pain of the migrants that are coming in to get the rest of the country to pay attention. And it definitely shouldn't take those measures to have the federal government ignore its job. Like, the federal government is supposed to take care of the borders, and it's preventing the state from trying to close the borders that the feds refuse to take care of. The fact that the House hasn't drawn up papers of articles of impeachment for literally not doing your job. Right. Yeah. The president ignoring the border. The House should absolutely have drawn up papers. Absolutely.
No, but I mean, the federal government is rogue in its entirety.
100%.
The Supreme Court being like, no, you can't defend your borders. What? The federal government being like, we're going to facilitate human smuggling. And Congress, which has a Republican advantage, doing nothing to try and corral the corruption. Let me pull this story.
Just stop funding it. Congress has the control of the funding.
Well, they're doing nothing. Let's pull this story from the Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, the escalation is here. Texas Democrat calls on Biden to seize control of Texas National Guard. Rep. Joaquin Castro is calling on President Biden to take control of the Texas National Guard if the state defies a Supreme Court ruling, which it did. Governor Greg Abbott is using the Texas National Guard to obstruct and create chaos at the border. If Abbott is defying yesterday's Supreme Court ruling, POTUS needs to establish sole federal control of the Texas National Guard now. He can't, by the way. Doesn't work that way. The governor has to sign off on federalization, basically saying like, okay, through me, you can give orders and we can unify. In this instance, I don't want to tell you guys, you have these people. Let me show you this tweet. This is Janai Nelson, president and direct counsel of LDF NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, saying, this is outright defiance of a Supreme Court order by a Southern governor who thinks he is above the law.
You like how
if federalism means anything, it means Greg Abbott must be held to account. Let me make clear.
Southern. They did that on purpose. Like a dig or something.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure.
And let me make clear. What we are seeing now is Greg Abbott enforcing the law to the best of his abilities. Joaquin Castro and Democrats are lying about what's going on, saying it's chaos.
Yeah, well, he said that Greg Abbott is causing the chaos. It is chaos at the border.
They're saying
they're trying to stem the chaos.
The actions being taken to uphold federal law and state law is chaos. The Biden administration and Democrats are actively destroying this country. And I got to be honest, guys, like, I don't know. I can't mince words on this one. They are quite literally destroying the country. This is not, how do I say this? They are engaged in a seditious conspiracy to subvert the Constitution and destroy the fabric of this country. That's not hyperbole. When Ian brings up his parents who are not super politically engaged and watch MSNBC saying this is getting crazy. When I bring up Chicago and New York, because when you have major Democrat strongholds in panic over the crisis that is happening right now, and the Biden administration with a smile on his face says the border is not secure, and then tries to damage it further. There is no question we are watching a man pour lighter fluid on the fabric of this nation and set it aflame while we all scream. The outcome here, if the feds do make a move to try and seize control of the National Guard or deploy federal agents to Texas to try and stop them, guys, what do you call it when armed forces under state jurisdiction engage in active conflict with federal forces? Call it whatever you want.
I don't know if the president, I mean, he's the commander in chief of the armed forces. I don't know if the National Guard of Texas would, the Guard of Texas would.
It's not under his jurisdiction. I don't think.
Well, I mean, the feds can call them up. They called them up and sent them overseas.
It's a question of where are these guardsmen from?
Right.
Are they residents of Texas who enlisted in Texas? I'd imagine they'd have to be, right?
Yeah, but even still, that like you don't go to the same. You still go to like Army wherever the Army does their basic training.
That doesn't mean anything. In 1861, you had West Point graduates trained in New York saying, "My home is Virginia."
Yeah.
And they said, I will, and that's, I mean, the famous generals, I will stand with my state.
But I don't think that people think like that anymore. So, I mean,
Do you think the 19-year-old guy whose mom lives in, I don't know, Austin is going to be like, nah, I'm going to go to war with my neighbors and friends?
I have no idea what what a kid's going to do. Because there are people like, I would have said something different before January 6th last year when the feds filled up DC with, troops for no reason.
The question is, are these guardsmen from Texas and connected through community to Texas? If the answer is yes, there is no question. If the feds make a move against Texas and try to seize control of the guard, on average, people will always just defend their friends and their families.
Yeah, you're talking about what people are likely to do. I'm wondering what the law actually says.
Apparently, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm reading this from findlaw.com, that Title 32 gives governors the authority over the guard in their states, but then they say that Title 10 says the president can mobilize the guard and put it under federal authority.
Yes, but under what circumstances? My understanding is the governor has to sign off on it.
If that's the case, then if the governor has to say yes, then that's the case. But yeah, I don't know for sure.
Well, I mean, I think realistically, the reason this country is still alive is because states are preeminent. The federal government's an afterthought. Like, we are United States. We unite by choice.
The Civil War completely changed all of that.
Yeah, it did.
What you're talking about is the way that the states thought of themselves prior to the Civil War, when the states still thought that they could secede.
Yeah.
Like, they used to think before, like Texas in their constitution, before they joined in their constitution, I believe it says we're reserving the right to leave because Texas used to be its own country. So I think
Texas could secede theoretically.
So allegedly, I don't know that the federal government would allow it. The feds might still say, no, we settled this with the Civil War. According to the federal government, the Civil War settled the question as to whether or not countries can secede. So
and no, actually, Ulysses S. Grant wrote up exactly why they cannot, and I believe he's correct. So there are certainly, he's mostly correct. He wrote this great letter, and he said, basically, the states of the Union sacrificed blood and treasure to admit these states to join in, and they owe a debt. To declare that they would separate while in debt is, I'm paraphrasing, but you can read the whole letter. Basically, his point is, yo, homie, I paid a bunch of money for you to come and join this crew. You can't just bow out now. You owe us. And that makes sense.
Is that it? I mean,
something to that effect is the argument being made. And so
does that mean in perpetuity?
Well, that's a good point. That's why I say mostly correct. Mostly correct being, so long as you are in a debt, pay that debt back and we'll negotiate however that is. But I do believe that ultimately it doesn't matter, because Ulysses Grant also wrote, you have the right to secede, but no, if there is a debt to be paid, you will be at war, and if you lose, you'll be ruled by the victors. Yeah, so his point is basically, at any point, any person, any state could declare they will no longer be part of the Union, but be prepared to fight. And if you lose, you are now under our rule.
I imagine that there would be a fight if Texas were to say, well, we're going to just kick federal troops out.
And it wouldn't be like leaving the Union. It would be like, obviously Florida and Texas are unified. So if there was a union, like, what's the union? How many unions? Who is united exactly? Is it 49 of the states decide to unify against this stupid federal government that's gone too far? Then what's the union? The union is the people that are unifying. It's not on paper. It's like what's really happening right now.
I just find it fascinating how many people scoffed at the idea of civil war. And then even after January 6th, you still get a lot of people say January 6th was not an insurrection, but these Democrats who claim it is still scoff at the idea of civil war.
Right.
Now you have, I'm sorry, my friends, we quite literally have the lowest degree possible, but we do have armed conflict between a state National Guard and the federal government. Now I want to be careful here because I don't want people to assume armed conflict implies people are shooting at each other. What this means is both factions have deployed armed personnel and they are in conflict with each other. Meaning Texas National Guard are defying federal mandate and pushing out federal agents to take territory. The feds want that territory back. The only thing that hasn't happened is they've not decided to fight about it yet physically. But there are armed men in conflict right now trying to control certain jurisdictions. I mean, this is a powder keg.
It's certainly far more significant than January 6th was. January 6th, it was a riot that got out of hand. This is
Joe Biden is engaged in insurrection.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
I mean, that's
Look.
fair.
I think it is definitive at this point. Joe Biden should be removed from the ballot in as many states as he can for engaging in insurrection actively right now by subverting the Constitution and engaging in a seditious conspiracy of human smuggling in defiance of even blue states.
To make any argument that Trump engaged in insurrection and to then make the argument that Biden has not is completely ridiculous and unserious.
See, I don't think the federal government is actually going to go down to Texas and seize the National Guard, because I think they would legitimately have a civil war at hands, because Texas would they wouldn't allow that. And so why would the federal government, especially in an election year, go down there and do something? Because then the problem would get 10 times worse. And I think to your point of, Eric Adams and 50% of the hotel rooms are taken up by illegal immigrants and we have this huge crisis in our country, why would he continuously make it worse? So I honestly think it's a political play just to paint Texas and Greg Abbott like the bad guys
I can
and
give you
not
an
actually
answer.
do something.
Why would they make it worse? So that Donald Trump can't win an election in November.
That's true.
The purpose we were talking before the show, Ian was saying they would not be able to win a civil war. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm like, they would, because the win condition is not like one side climbs the top of the hill and plants a flag. The win condition for people who hate America is to destroy the fabric of the country. Starting a civil war is the win condition for these people.
Yeah,
so when I hear people say like national divorce, I'm like, that will be civil war. Yeah. There is no circumstance where there is a peaceful separation of states. Impossible. Because of water rights, because of farming rights, because of highway access, because of weapon control, because of general natural resources. Which states have access to, I mean, come on. The North Dakota frack fields would become an economic powerhouse. And then you're going to have someone in a different state being like, I'm the one who paid for all of that. And they're going to say, no, you're going to get conflict for sure. Yeah. If we do, there will be no constitution anymore. Right. In the Civil War in 1861, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus in a corridor stretching from D.C. up to Pennsylvania. The reason being, Maryland was a slave state with massive Southern sympathies. So he had members of their legislature arrested and created a corridor where they could travel between D.C. and PA so the Union could stay unified with D.C. And they would arrest anyone without charge or trial who in any way bothered them. And there was actually one guy they did. Locked him up for the duration of the war, and he gave him the middle finger and said, F you. When the war ended, they let him go, and then he just said, F you, and they're like, your charges stand. He said, F you, and he left. And then that was like, they just let it go.
Who was it?
You can read about the story. It was crazy. Abraham Lincoln, when the war started, Constitution was gone. Yeah. If you were speaking pro-Confederacy speech, you're locked up. Done. No question. If a civil war were to break out, let me just tell you, do you guys think, let me ask you a question. The Epstein client list. Let's say there's a person, we know that they're ultra wealthy individuals and powerful. They're on the client list. Which would you think they would prefer? Having their name published in the press as to being a high profile billionaire pedophile who was working with Epstein, or civil war breaking the machine apart? What do you think these people would rather have happen?
Oh, civil war. They don't want to be exposed. Yeah, absolutely.
They don't want accountability. They don't want to get caught. They want to keep up their operations, keep up the crimes they're committing, and they'd rather the United States burn than anyone find out what they're doing.
I mean, that's what they want to destabilize Western civilization as we know it, and they want to destroy the Constitution, but that's all coming from the WEF. They've been wanting to do this for decades, of just continuously destabilize our country as we know it, take away our freedom slowly but surely. And I mean, even now, Gen Z, they're willing to do anything to make a dollar, and they don't even have a care about politics or what's going on in our country until you actually show them. The amount of college kids actually that I interview asking if they even know about the border crisis or how many people are coming into our country or that their taxpayer dollars are paying for it, whether it's in San Diego, California, or Texas. So many kids have no idea because they don't watch the news. All they watch is brainwashing on TikTok, and they don't actually know the crisis is going on.
You know, a lot of people have made the joke that everything started to fall apart when Epstein died. And there's a meme that around the time Epstein dies, you get the breakdown of narrative control, you get the lockdowns, people start losing their minds. Now, I certainly don't think that means that whatever Epstein was doing was the top of the mountain in terms of this deep state, or I like the new phrase that we're getting from the Kari Lake scenario, people back east. What did he say?
Oh, that what a video.
Yeah, people back east.
That guy resigned, by the way.
He did.
He did resign.
Today.
We'll definitely talk about that. But I'm wondering if whatever it is Epstein's involved in has scattered the cockroaches.
Dude.
And
Yes.
and this is why the narrative machine is breaking, because it used to be that high-profile millionaires and billionaires and politicians were all partying, and then once Epstein gets caught, they all say, every man for themselves.
Yeah. It feels like abject panic. It does feel like that, like the panic that I can't see, but I can sense that it's happening behind the scenes because it's so quiet. It's so quiet about that Epstein
quiet.
stuff.
Too quiet. Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, come on, we know powerful people on that list. They're going to be heads of industry. They're going to be politicians. They're going to be world leaders.
It could be Bill Clinton. Like
Prince Andrew.
Like I've heard that Bill Clinton literally flew with Epstein a bunch of times. Probably got massages from 15-year-olds. God knows what else they did. I don't know if probably is the right word, but like that. If it was Bill, if you found the Bill Clinton of all people, it's like the grossest underage sex scandal on earth, and then you're implicating people like Bill. Like what is that?
Bro, Prince Andrew is photographed with one of the
Prince
victims.
of England.
Yeah.
Prince of the United Kingdom. I mean, this is already that serious. Think about how look, man. You look at like the Emirates. You look at Saudi Arabia. You look at the wealth that's down there. You think these people aren't also connected? And I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying there are criminal, corrupt people with massive amounts of power, probably working with Epstein. Epstein, the whole thing's broken. Whatever machine they had running. I'm not saying it was the machine. I'm not saying it was the deep state. But too many people associated with powerful industry and government were involved in that, and they're scattering like cockroaches. The light got turned on, and they rushed to the corners of the room, and now there's nothing maintaining the facade.
I mean, I feel like the Epstein was an intel asset, and so I mean that's kind of what would happen that's what you would expect to happen if he actually did have information on powerful people and stuff like that, and they were using it as state secrets to get compliance or whatever. They're gonna try to squash the list. That intel agencies don't want anyone to know about what they're doing ever. Like that's just everything is as secret as they can get.
I was picturing Tim. You were talking about Epstein getting off the plane with like some dude. I keep using Bill Clinton or whoever it was, some random guy, and he's like, "You like her a lot, man? Yeah, she really likes you. She's 15, bro. We got you." And then like Epstein just seizes alpha control of Bill Clinton or whoever, the emotional control. Yep. And then they're like, "What? I can't even say he's got this thing that I don't want him to have because it's like can't even acknowledge that he's got the thing."
I mean, I imagine it's like he's on the plane because the reports are that the girls were on the planes, and he invites someone like Clinton or whoever it may be. They're sitting on the plane, and then they say like, "Hey, meet this hot young thing," and then she starts working on him. And then once she's done, he says, "Hey, take a look at the TV screen. We got a movie we're going to play." And then he plays the video of it happening. And he goes, "By the way, she's 15.
We got all of it, man. And just like the balls that Epstein had.
And then as soon as you say that politician, that corporate officer or whatever, they start sweating profusely. Like, well, what do you mean? It's like, don't worry, relax. I'm going to call you and tell you what you need to do when I need you to do it. But everything should be fine. You work for us now."
And who does he
how
work
many
for?
people are bought in this country that we have no idea about. And I don't think we're ever going to actually see the entire list, because once they're all implicated and, I think they should go to prison for the rest of their lives, it's going to cause so much havoc in our country, and they don't want that list to come out. Nobody does.
No. Like that's my whole feeling on the whole intel thing. Like as long as it's connected to intelligence, you're going to have media and governments doing everything they can to shut it down.
And what would they rather have? The list coming out with their names on it or a civil war?
Civil war. Plus, I think they know the list.
And let's not even say civil war, to be honest. Would destabilization to the point where there is no power able to hold them accountable. Let me put it this way. If this country, if Donald Trump wins come November, and then the list does come out, Bill Clinton's on it, do you think Democrats would believe or care or even try to go after Clinton?
No.
They would lie about what's going on. They would say Donald Trump fabricated a list to try and go after his political rivals.
Ugh, dude.
That's it. I mean, this is why the Boston Globe published that story where they said Democrats war gamed out what would happen in 2020. And in the event Donald Trump were to win, they would encourage West Coast states to secede from the union. This literally happened. It's Boston Globe. This story comes out in what, like, I think mid 2020. This is where we are now. I want to talk about people back east. Kari Lake's team slaps back at Jeff DeWitt's false claims he was blackmailed into resigning over bribery tape and says resigned Arizona Republican Party chair should apologize for his unethical behavior. So, whoa, we got to slow down here. Jeff DeWitt is the guy who was caught on camera. And we've called it bribery of Kari Lake. I actually think it's blackmail. I think blackmail is a better term. Is there an amount of money? I don't think he's trying to bribe her when they both explicitly are bringing up that when she says they're going to have me murdered. Kari Lake says that in the recording. And he's like, well, if it's true about the report with the cartels operating in all 50 states, that doesn't sound like bribery. That sounds like a guy came in and said, be a shame if one of these cartels people got you. Why don't you take a job and just don't bother the people back east? That sounds like blackmail. Call it bribery, whatever. Well, the latest news is that this guy resigned. He's claiming that the audio has been altered in some way, and Kari Lake's team came to him and said, more audio will be released unless you resign. Now, Kari Lake's team is disputing this, but I got to tell you, when you listen to the audio, my guy, ain't nobody made you become a scumbag who's going to go to Kari Lake and offer her cash to drop out of politics.
I was wondering, is he getting a cut? Is that why he was doing that?
I was going to say, he's a little fish. Who is the big guy that's paying him to talk to Kari Lake and say, hey, we don't want you to run in the Senate race for the next 2 years, lay down? Because there's no way out of his own brain. He said the people back east. Who's the people back east that are funding this corruption, not just in the state of Arizona, but there's more people that are being bribed or blackmailed into
Who is they,
not
though?
running. Exactly.
Who is they? They were. They didn't say numbers. Kari was like, "What, $1 billion? That's not. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, it can't be bought." Did you guys play this video last night? Any of it?
Portions of it.
This is crazy.
It's 10 minutes long,
and it is edited.
I mean, the shocking thing is, she says, what, 1 million, 2 million? It's not worth it. And I'm thinking, like, I know, because the number's probably around 10 million. I'm gone. I'll be out the door. No, I'm just kidding. But the question is, they don't bring up in the video who they is.
Right.
They say they are saying this. They said it's powerful people back east. So I have to assume it's deep state. It's intelligence assets. It's leaders of industry. It's people likely in D.C.
Well, even Kari brought this up in the video, is like, it's because they're anti-Trump. And the people back east, they're going to put their money where their mouth is. I definitely think it's the deep state, because they're going to do anything to get the people that are backing Trump. And I mean, Kari Lake is one of the biggest people in the country who is backing Trump and who has been unapologetically on that train. So I think it all goes back to this upcoming election, not even her Senate race.
The term deep state in this context, I mean, when I think of the deep state, I'm specific in thinking about like bureaucracy. So I'm thinking of actual government agencies. So you're whether it be the EPA or it be DEA or whatever it is, Justice Department, whatever. I'm thinking of some kind of government agency. I don't know where they're going to come up with money to bribe her out of an actual government agency. I think that it's more likely that it would be like someone that sends money to PACs, like a wealthy investor or something like that, than actually, an actual person in the government. So when you say deep state, I think of actual bureaucracy, someone that's actually in the government, as opposed to...
Which of these high-level donors also murder people? That's why deep state fits better. Powerful interests, special interests, massive coffers, and the means and will to assassinate.
Well, the assassination, when they were like, I don't think they're going to do that, and the guy, what's his name, McAdams, the guy's
Jeff DeWitt.
Jeff DeWitt was like, yeah, I don't think they're going to do they
wait,
implying that the people
what? What do you mean?
Assassinate Kari Lake.
He didn't say that. He said they would.
No, in the very beginning, they talked about it, and then there was a cartel thing. But then about 6 minutes in, they talk about the people back east doing it, and they're both like, no, I don't think they would do that.
Except at the end of the video,
they're more money guys.
At the end of the video, he says, paraphrasing, if I go public, I will put my key in my car and it'll explode.
Yeah, he did say that.
She says they're going to have me murdered, and he said, well, if it's true about the cartel operating in all 50 states, then at the end, she says, go public. He goes, no. Then I turn my key in my car and...
Well, if he said cartel, is he talking about drug cartels, or was he using the phrase more ambiguously?
I think he's talking about the drug cartels.
Yeah, they said that in the very beginning it was out of context. You missed what they were talking about, but they said the cartel is operating in all 50 states or something like that. And it just assumes that he's talking about the Mexican drug cartels.
With this video being released, like... I'm at the point now where anybody can come to me with any conspiracy theory, and I'm gonna be like, well, I believe you over the government or the press. Like all the stuff they kept saying was a lie. Remember when Epstein was a conspiracy theory? Yeah. And then Amy Robach over at ABC has that video leaked where she's like, I had it. Mike Cernovich files this paperwork with Mark Randazza. Miami, I think is what the Miami Herald was that, or who was it? Was Miami Herald who got involved, or was it Times? I'm not sure. It might have been the Herald. I'm not sure. You want to fact check?
Yeah.
But more journalists get involved. We get these documents released, and then this forces the hand for them to go after Epstein. And all of a sudden, it wasn't a conspiracy theory anymore. Alex Jones was not crazy. It was just, well, of course. Then Epstein dies while in jail, with the cameras failing and the guards falling asleep.
I think it was Julie K. Brown with the Miami Herald.
Yeah, the Herald. Okay.
That's what I've come to see is like all this dirty, dark potential is like, I used to just kind of wash it out and be like, no, that's video game stuff. That's movie villain stuff. That's not real stuff. And now like, oh, if it can be done, there's a likelihood that it is being done.
Bro, I used to think very much the same way, that life is much more boring than people realize. And I still think that's true to a degree, but holy crap. Kari Lake published audio of a guy saying people back east want to pay you money to drop out of the race.
Yeah.
Oh, not to
Kari
drop out,
said,
just to pause her campaign.
Pause for, well, yeah, that's a drop out.
Just
of
pause
years.
for a couple of years. Oh, yeah, pause all
and
government
that his
activity
car
for
will
2 years.
explode if he goes public.
Is there anyone else that's running against her, or who is running against her that's on the conservative side?
Let's find
I
out.
don't know.
Does she have someone that she's... Because I imagine if they want her to drop out, they would want her to drop out or to pause her campaign because they have someone that they would prefer to be in the position. If it were a conservative, or if it were someone...
I think at this point, all the Republicans should drop out of the primary.
Oh, they're at
August
the
6th,
Arizona primary?
2024. Yeah, it's the Republican primary for U.S. Senate. So you've Christopher Berschauer unofficially withdrew. Leonard Fulcher, Kari Lake, Mark Lamb, Connie Moreno, Elizabeth Ray, Robert Walker, Ellen White, Brian Wright. I think they should all drop out.
I like Mark Lamb.
You what?
I like Mark Lamb.
I think they should all drop out.
All of them but Kari?
Yep.
Yeah.
Kari is massively popular. She's nationally popular. And the concern now is, look, I'll put it this way. I don't live in Arizona. Take it with a grain of salt. You don't got to take my advice. Any one of these people, I'm not going to get mad at them if they don't drop out. But my view is I don't trust anyone who stays in. The chair of the Republican Party, you know he's in communication with these people who are running. Did he go to any of these other candidates and offer them a bribe to drop out?
Definitely not.
I would assume no.
doubt it. Yeah.
It's Kari Lake. She's MAGA. She's Trump. They want Trump to lose. And you know that pause does not mean pause. She drops out for 2 years. She's gone.
Oh, yeah. And then they'd expose that they bribed her after the fact, and then she'd tarnish her name with that.
Absolutely. They'd publish the bribe and say, look, Kari Lake took money to drop out. She's been corrupt the whole time. Now I look at these other people who are running, and I'm like, which one of them is in cahoots with DeWitt? Because DeWitt's going to Kari Lake saying, drop out. The inverse is happening. He's going to one of these guys and being like, how much can we give you?
That does suck that these people would even be remotely implicated, because a lot of these people are probably just honestly trying to run, and then they got all this malfeasance at the top.
Yep.
And then they're part of this dirty system. But hey, that's politics. That's politics, man. And we're in the United States, which is apparently the least worst, but it's probably not the least worst because the power that you can gain if you get control of that system.
It's all a back scratching. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's what even Kari was talking about. Like she's the only one that will say no, because there are too many politicians, whether it's federal government or state governments, that are being paid off actively by whether it's the GOP, by Democrats, by deep state. There are too many people, corrupt people in our government systems.
And they're being paid on. They're just being paid by super PACs or by donors to get in there, which is technically a legal thing. So you wouldn't even call it them being paid off, but it's like, then they're beholden to their money. Oh, it's just.
So have you guys bought any emergency food? Dude, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Listen, we knew 2024 was going to be wild. It's 2023. We're like, it's going to get crazy. It's the first month in, and there are armed National Guardsmen and the governor of Texas declaring supremacy over the border, with the federal government trying to open the border. And we have, again, still the first month in, Kari Lake releasing audio of an attempt to bribe her, nay, blackmail her into dropping out with the fear of death on the line from a guy who fears they will kill him if this information goes public. Oh, wow. I didn't know it was going to kick off this quick. I was like, maybe by the time springtime's coming around, things are getting warmer. We're going to get crazy riots, and there's going to be weird stories about, P-tapes or something. Man, March 5th is going to be a crazy day.
It was Trump getting in and being like, everyone, there's a deep state. Look under the covers. This is what it looks like. And everyone lost their shit. But then it's having Biden in office, which is so bad. Like, it's not that I hate the guy. It's that he's mentally incompetent, that he's aged so rapidly in the last 4 years. And the vacancy is why a lot of this junk is transpiring.
Okay.
I don't think that matters.
So,
I mean, Obama wouldn't be so stupidly challenging Texas's authority in Texas. Like, that's a maniacal.
Do you think Biden's really up to it, though? Because I think there's other people behind the scenes they're the ones that are telling, hey, Abbott, you guys, we're going to come and seize your National Guard, and we're going to open up the border, and you guys are then going to have to pay for the buses and the flights. I mean, I'm in Sky Harbor just in Phoenix every single week, and I see dozens, if not hundreds, of illegal immigrants getting on airplanes every single day. I talk to the TSA agents all the time, and it's not stopping, whether it's Texas or Arizona.
I'll tell you what scares me the most. It's not actually the border. It's not Biden and his bumbling speech. What scares me the most is that when Biden says, "Turn it on, shout of pressure," the crowd goes, "Yay!"
Oh, man.
Luke posted this, Luke Rukowski. Biden goes, "Because when you mess with Yaga Rinamer, you can't." And the crowd goes, "Wow!" Screaming, cheering. I'm like, this man,
the emperor has no clothes.
This
that
man
book was written about.
Quite literally said no words, and the crowd was cheering in uproar.
Do you remember that?
This is I'm sorry, listen. This is a crowd where someone. I mean, look. People talk about the fervor of Nazis and how they screamed and cheered for Hitler. Hitler was speaking to them.
Yeah, at least he was saying words.
What he was saying things, and
they were terrible, but
they're terrible things. But the thing is, the opposition could discern their plans. Right. Joe Biden stands up and goes, and then hands everybody a club, and they go, woo, and then they start marching around, and you're like, what are they doing?
Everyone in the back looks like a deranged
things.
Feminist, millennial white woman who's just so unhappy with their lives.
I have to assume it's all like AI generated video.
It's this. There's a book called "The Emperor Wears No Clothes," where, and I have never read the book, but I know the premise is that the emperor, they'd come out, and I don't know if it's China or whatever, they'd march around, and the emperor would be naked. But they'd be like, look at the beautiful outfit that the emperor has on. Isn't it beautiful, everyone? Look, the emperor is wearing a beautiful outfit. Isn't it beautiful? And everyone would be like, yes, beautiful outfit. And then eventually one little kid was like, the emperor's not wearing any clothes. And everyone's like, oh. And it's this moment of cognitive dissonance where like youthful innocence overrides this corrupt, I don't know what you would call it, stupidity or.
Can you show your parents the video of him, the recent one where he goes, and the crowd starts cheering?
Yeah, I got to find it.
And then, but don't show them any commentary on it. Just play the video for them, ask them what they think. And then whatever they end up saying, ask them again, why do you think the crowd is cheering despite not knowing what Biden said?
Yeah, they're cheering for the regime. That's the terrifying part.
They're cheering. That shows you Biden could literally call for the extermination of a group of people, and they would cheer for it.
They got an interesting perspective, some of these older people, because they saw Biden in the 80s, 90s, 2000s.
70s, man.
Yeah, they still see like his youth in him when they look at him. I just see what I see, which is straightforward. I mean, I got introduced to the guy in 2008, thought he was a scumbag. I don't know why Obama picked him. Probably he was chosen for Obama because they needed some dark money in there.
White old man. They need a white old man.
But when I look at him now, I look at like a vacant, pale, thin, wispy ancient, and it's not in a good way. Like I see this dilapidated nonsense, but I think a lot of people still see the Joe from 2006, that old smile and a wink. Gonna write that crime bill and plagiarize my presidential campaign. Everybody, like I don't know how that got swept under the rug that he's a plagiarist too.
It's the worst thing.
Like,
Ever.
he had to drop out of his
1988. He dropped out of the presidential campaign because he got caught plagiarizing.
It's
his
happened
campaign
numerous times.
Dirty.
Let me just stress this again for you guys right now, though. The border stuff is scary. The people back east, man, that's a quote we got to keep. The people back east, that's a scary quote. Who are they? Yeah. The fact that large crowds will cheer for Biden with Biden not saying words is much more terrifying, because this means these people could be handed weapons and they'll just scream and cheer for anything. Biden could say something abhorrent and they would scream and cheer for it. At least when Donald Trump says lock her up, people chant back, lock her up. With Joe Biden, he goes, and they're like, yay.
I did get a horrible vision of the president ordering people to turn on American citizens, like whoever, an out group of some sort, whether you call it the Nazis, the
MAGA
commies, the
Republicans?
MAGA Republicans, the
Maybe.
black people,
I mean,
the
He
white
calls it-
people.
he's-
You pick a group and
he's doing that already.
done that.
And then, but in my mind, I visualize people cheering it on, being like,
They
yeah,
are.
go
They
get
are.
us.
That's literally happening.
That's Nazi Germany. Like
That's happening now, bro.
Well-
It's been happening for like a year longer.
It literally
maybe that's
happened
why-
when Hillary Clinton said the basket of deplorables. People cheered for that.
But worse than that, they've been calling Trump supporters maggots
yeah,
for years now. And Joe Biden says his first campaign commercial was, "They are your enemy and must be stopped."
Yeah.
I see the cheering like for the rhetoric, but I was visualizing like a guy on the street getting clubbed and other people getting on the news and people being like, yeah, get it. And like, don't let the country come to that. Don't become that guy.
Bro, that's like TV in 2020. I was seeing all that happening already. I feel like
All
it's been going on.
all the stuff that
you're
you're worried about possibly happening in the future has happened in the past. Happened in 2020. People were getting beat.
It happened in Nazi Germany. We should take a message. We should take a learning lesson.
Yeah,
from
like
that.
all the aggressive black
there,
doing
there
when
have
the
been
leader
people
goes, "Those are your
literally saying
enemies."
that exact same thing since like 2015 when Milo was getting punched in the face. That like you can't sit there and just say, "Oh, punch a Nazi, it's okay. We need to calm these things down." All of that was the start
Here's one
of what
for
we're
you.
seeing now. That was almost 10 years ago.
And then you have Chris Reagan, who made a song, Punch a Nazi, which was a satirical version of Paparazzi by Lady Gaga, pointing out how these people are going around saying that encourage people to engage in violence against anyone they disagree with. And the threats of violence were so extreme, Chris Reagan took the video down a couple years later and then totally just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yep.
I think he still does videos of some sort, but man, did he ran in panic.
He got rid of it. Yeah, but I
got
mean,
rid of it. That's crazy.
This is not something that's coming in the future. This is not like the government being against a group of Americans. The IRS was used to target Americans in like 2012, 12 years ago. This is not someday this is coming. This is happening right now. I know that it's Donald Trump, but like they're fabricating and doing everything they can to circumvent due process to just slap this guy with punishments.
I feel like there is some scapegoating happening from the top rhetorically, but people are strong mentally to not fall for it. I just want to encourage people to continue to not fall for it and don't scapegoat other groups of people.
They have not fallen for it. They have fallen hook, line, and sinker for
I
it.
know people that have not fallen for it that I would have thought have.
There are some people that have not, of course, but I think that the reason that we talk about things like people kind of realize that things are bad when they saw like what their kids were seeing in schools during COVID, or when they saw the way that the government was behaving during COVID. All of that stuff there were people warning about that stuff for at least a decade prior. At least 10 years before all of that stuff happened, there were people saying, "Hey, this is happening, this is happening." Some people were saying it 20 years earlier. Like Alex Jones, as much as people hate to admit it, like Alex Jones was predicting some of the crazy
Remember when he
shit.
predicted 9/11?
Yeah, he was predicting 20 years ago.
Yuri
Like in
Bezmenov.
July of 2001, Alex Jones there's like a famous recording of Jones. You can watch it where he's like, "They're going to be targeted in the World Trade Centers and other places with terror attacks," and then he talks for a little bit, and then he mentions Osama bin Laden will be the main scapegoat. They've used him before, blah blah blah, and it's just like you can watch his videos.
It was like in May of 2001. He was talking
That's
about
crazy.
it 5 or 6 months before.
The stuff is not coming. The stuff is here, and it's just that Americans have not noticed because it is not. They have not targeted enough Americans that to the point where the left-leaning kind of bad liberals, Democrats that should be more liberal than they are, until those people start seeing it, until their friends start paying for it, until the laptop class starts paying for it, there will be no changes.
That's why they're moving these illegal immigrants to the cities is crude as it is, I think is the most effective eye-opening.
Because it forces you to look at it. It forces you to be beholden to it. It's like what Phil was saying about the laptop class. It's like if your daily life is so comfortable using one of these guys, and you have dopamine feed from your TV, etc., whatever you're watching on TV, and you're comfortable, like Phil always mentions, like people that are in a comfortable situation don't revolt because they're just like their everyday life is so cushy. There's no reason. There's like, well, what's so bad about this happening? It doesn't affect me. So like you're like you said, it's crude, but it's the only way to make people experience it. Otherwise, they're not gonna it's never going to be a thing in their life ever.
It has to be.
That is Gen Z in a nutshell, though,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
every single Gen Zer on a college campus, first of all, they go to an indoctrination camp. They're learning everything that the establishment
yes.
wants them to learn. And then they go on their phones for the rest of the day, and they're just sucked in and living this mundane life doing absolutely nothing.
Just parroting it.
And they're just rotting. Like,
Yeah.
literally, Gen Z's brains are rotting, especially in college campuses. And nothing is going to solve it until we continue to press and make people wake up. I mean, the whole Biden gaffe thing that happened was at his Restore Roe rally, where you see just dozens of these millennial Gen Z women that are chanting for pro-choice and, therefore legal genocide of, babies being aborted in our country, which is absurd. But those are the kind of issues that these women are grasping onto and supporting Biden for. And same thing with the technology. I think they're pro-transhumanism. Gen Z is trending in the direction of the more crazy, the better. I mean, I talk to kids all the time that have read the Communist Manifesto. And they endorse Karl Marx and they love socialism,
wild.
like on college campuses. I mean, I've had fascists yell fascist in my face, and it happens on every single campus across the country. And I think it's only getting worse until we continue. I mean, I know Turning Points, we're actually out there talking to kids, but we're going to need more of it because these kids need to reverse the brainwashing that they've been going through for years.
Yeah. It's like you want to wake people up to horror without putting them through horror.
Right.
The horror of like scapegoating, your government scapegoating a class of person. That we have it on camera, Hitler doing that to the Jews and the gypsies, but particularly the Jews. So we have evidence like don't ever do that ever again. But how do you get people to realize that the MAGA Republican thing is a scapegoat attempt to get them to wake up to like don't ever do that again?
How do you make them do it again? You just say like, oh well, you blame the people for doing exactly what you're doing.
Here's the challenge I see. There are very powerful people who are involved with Epstein level stuff, and it's periphery, who don't want to be exposed, and I think it's probably bigger than people realize. So, I think it was Bill Maher who was doing his Club Random. Is that the name of his show?
Yeah.
And he said Jimmy Kimmel is the last person who would be on this list. It's laughable. He's a regular guy. Oh, Jimmy Kimmel's such a nice guy. Why was Bill Maher lying? Why would Bill Maher lie? Was Bill Maher on the list? Is Bill Maher on the apps? Is it related to this? Is he involved in this stuff? Big Hollywood guy. Bill Maher's been single for a long time. Jimmy Kimmel is friends with Epstein's personal chef, and they've reportedly been in business together in varying capacities. So why would Jimmy Kimmel's name appear on the list or in lists related to those in the circle of Epstein? Because he was in cahoots with Epstein's chef. That's one degree of separation. We're not talking about Kevin Bacon. We're talking about my friend literally works for the guy. We hang out all the time. He's got a restaurant I go to. When you get people like Bill Maher who are trying to cover up and trying to downplay the severity of what's going on, it makes me feel like the sphere of corruption related to intelligence assets, Epstein, etc., the deep state, is much wider than people realize. And if it's not the case that Bill Maher has something to hide, he's so stupid, he is pushing people in the wrong direction, causing damage. And so what I see from this is, how do we convince the people the MAGA Republican thing is a big lie? It's tough because the MAGA Republican thing, this is the principal faction calling out those who are connected to Epstein and child trafficking. And Jimmy Kimmel is in that sphere of influence, but he's got powerful allies, assets, resources, and money that will use the media to lie to people because he does not want to be involved. He does not want to, he does not want people coming out being like, did you know that he was really good friends with Epstein's chef? That's bad for him. So you get powerful interests being like, what ends up happening is someone says, if I talk bad about him or bring this up, I can't go on his show. And it is not just that people are on the Epstein list. It's that there may be a guy who knows who is on the list and thinks, but if I call him out, he won't buy my product anymore. That sphere of influence is massive, absolutely massive. They're going to do everything in their power to keep that covered up in every capacity.
Maybe we can try and make some nuance on the Epstein stuff because most people that were connected with Epstein they didn't have sex with underage women. I would imagine.
Like Frank Reynolds in It's Always Sunny. He was just there for the snorkeling.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't know anything about the kid
taking
stuff.
the sites. A lot of people probably just did business with
that?
Epstein because he was a big businessman and loved to make connections, but never got to the level of going on the plane with them, or they knew somebody that knew Epstein. And if they're afraid of acknowledging the thing, then they're going to be hiding the people as well that did the nasty. So we should maybe go ease off on some of the people that were connected to it to try and find the darkest.
Well, shout out to the It's Always Sunny team because their latest season, Frank Reynolds is like, I went to the island, and they're like, what? And he's like, I didn't know anything about it. I was there for the snorkeling. But because it's absurd. Like, how could you have gone there and not known what was going on? The island's not that big.
I bet it was like some people were having dinner while parties while like 6 of the dudes went into back rooms, and those are the guys they got on that clip.
Bro, the girls were on the plane.
There's no way if anybody was on a plane getting to the island, they didn't know about the child trafficking.
Yeah, for real.
No way. If you just had one single meeting behind closed doors with Epstein, or you saw him at a party, cross hands, shook hands, that's one thing, like photograph with him. But if you were on the plane, I don't think there's no doubt in my mind that they knew about
the thing is, if I met Epstein and I went to a restaurant and I sat down and it was Epstein and some girl that looked like 16 and he's like, she's a model, I wouldn't question it. I would have been like, okay.
Dude, because a lot of models are that age.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is crazy.
And Ghislaine would specifically look for young models. Like they had a modeling agent.
Yeah.
Let me jump to the story from the Epic Times. Maine secretary says voters may cast ballots for Trump without knowing if it will count. I mean, that's it right there. The Maine Superior Court ordered that the Secretary of State has to wait for the Supreme Court to respond as to whether or not Trump can be removed before taking him off. So she says, okay, then people may vote for him. And if the Supreme Court says he can be removed, their votes are disqualified, despite having already been cast. They're not just talking about removing Trump from the ballot anymore. They're talking about retroactively removing votes for him. Now, understand what this means. There are many states, Colorado, whatever, they've lost. It's like, we want to remove Trump. No, you can't do that. If the Supreme Court does rule, that is up to the states to decide. Maybe SCOTUS doesn't come out and say Trump can be removed. They say, narrow ruling, it is up to the states to determine their elections. Have a nice day. Maine instantly then says all Trump votes are hereby disqualified. Colorado says all Trump votes are hereby disqualified, and they can just do it. They are going to retroactively remove Trump from the election.
But then the Florida would remove Biden. Texas would remove Biden.
Yes.
And that would be pointless. Like it would just
be
the Supreme Court can't allow that. It would be pointless in that it would create pointless we wouldn't have a federation anymore.
Yes,
so
you're correct.
The Supreme Court kind of has no choice but to uphold the Constitution on this one.
And the Constitution says state legislatures decide how their elections are run.
Yep.
Maybe the state Congresses, not state
the state legislature.
Not state governor.
They already allowed that to happen this past
But how
election.
things run and if they run are different stories. You can't remove candidates and say that that's actually happening legit. That's not a legitimate thing.
Bro, they're protecting democracy, bro.
It's, I mean,
I don't know what they can or can't do because there's a lot of stuff that I would have said they can't do that they've already done.
Yeah, you can't infringe the right to keep and bear arms, right?
You know?
Right.
Man, that one's been infringed quite a bit.
Yeah, a lot.
DC, it's funny, it's federal jurisdiction of all places to be beholden to the Constitution, and you can't have guns there.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The Constitution is just a piece of paper as long as people don't believe in it. And if the people don't actually want to hold Joe Biden accountable for allowing the kind of illegal immigration that he's allowed, then what's going to happen is Governor Abbott will stand up to the federal government as long as he thinks he can. The federal government might actually do something. Maybe there will be violence. And if the people don't support the idea that Texas was right, the American people are not going to say, they're going to say, no, you were wrong and blah, blah. But if the majority of people say Texas is right, it doesn't matter what the feds think because most people are going, in the court of public opinion, that's what's actually going to, at the end of the day, matter the most. But I don't think that most people feel that way. I think most people are going to side with the government because most people are stupid.
When you say the government, what do you mean? The Texas government, the federal government.
Most people don't even know what the Constitution says, let alone what the laws are of what the Supreme Court can and can't do. That's the problem. They have no idea what is going on. I mean, Gen Z, I literally filmed a video of, what are the 5 rights protected in the First Amendment? And they cannot tell you. They couldn't tell me what the Second Amendment, Third Amendment, any of the amendments were, how many amendments were in the Bill of Rights, and that they want to change the Constitution because it's a living and breathing Constitution. So when it comes to an issue like this in Maine, no, it's not a living and breathing Constitution at all. But the problem of this in Maine is Americans will not bat their eye and they will think that this is legal and that the federal government can do whatever they want. And sure, Trump's off the ballot. What happens then? Like, people will fall for it and they will think it's legal and okay when it's not.
That sounds very black-pilled. Do you find yourself without hope?
No, because I think there is hope. I think there is if people continue to press in and have conversations and, rebuke this kind of stuff. Because, if Maine does this, to your point, I think Texas should be like, all right, we're removing Biden. And same with Florida, and fight fire with fire.
So you do a lot of men in the street stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to ask particularly about when you ask people about when they say they're voting for, man, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. It was about particularly men in the street stuff here. I mean, I'm gonna see if I can remember it. Pardon me, totally derailed it there. But I totally forgot what I was gonna say. Pardon me, guys. My bad.
That's it.
That's right. I love you.
Well, everyone's going to remain totally silent for the next several minutes until Serge can figure out.
Wait, I will say though about man on the street stuff is like I kid you not, I have had students tell me they want to take away the Second Amendment entirely.
Right.
That U.S. citizens have no right to have an AR, and I'm like, well, what is that? Assault rifle. It's not an assault rifle. It stands for Armalite, for everyone who doesn't know that. And that's the craziest part. Oh, what are the 5 rights protected in the First Amendment? They can't even tell me. It's speech, assembly, petition, religion. They have no idea the rights that they have, and that what we're doing is to protect their rights, and they would do anything to get rid of them.
Well, my response is, if I talk to someone and they said, I want to get rid of the Second Amendment, I'll be like, okay, here's my idea. You want to live that way? Deal. So you don't get a First Amendment, you don't get a Second Amendment, and then I want to live my way, so I do get it. All right.
Why not?
All right.
Solution solved.
Problem solved. You can live however you want to live. Go live that way.
It's real important that we teach kids about the Constitution. That's like indoctrinatingly important.
They have stopped doing that, though.
That's so shocking. Like, that's the primary school system's primary function, I would
They've
think. Was
failed.
Make people understand the way the government works.
Absolutely not.
That is not
Even
the case.
Maybe math and that.
Collegiate history classes are focusing now more on critical race theory, having race-based history, than they are U.S. history. Same thing, go back in middle school, government classes. They're not teaching the basics of our government anymore.
Most people don't know that the federal government is not, or that our government is not a direct democracy. Most people don't know. Actually, it's as basic as this. Most people assume that they're not free. What I mean is, most people assume that they have to ask for permission to do things. That's the general assumption of the average American. When someone sees something they don't like, the first thing they say is, that can't be legal. He can't be allowed to do that. You hear it constantly.
I used to see this word permit on street signs when I was like 9 and 6. I'd see doing this is permitted. I'm like, well, what does that word mean? I'm not allowed to do it? Because why would I need a sign to tell me I'm allowed to do something?
So that's
I'm allowed to do it.
That's how badly am I not allowed to do?
That's how badly people understand, or how poorly people understand the very fundamental basics of American society. You are free. That means you don't have to ask permission to do shit. And they don't even get that. Straight up, the gut instinct from most people is not that they're free. It's that they gotta ask someone if they can. They're looking for permission. So if you're starting with people don't even understand that they're free, then that means that the rights that are protected in the Constitution, they don't conceptualize themselves as already having. They don't believe they have the right to free expression. They believe that the government gives it to them. They believe they have to have permission. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be an American. And it is intentional that people see things this way. And the evidence is in the results.
I get the idea that, yeah, you can say God gave us our rights. I get it. But if you don't have guns and a forcible, strong border to keep out idiots that are going to come enslave you, you don't have your rights. So you need to protect your rights with force of arms. But the concept that you always had them anyway is kind of like a tongue-in-cheek Ben Franklin thing. I get it.
You do have them. It's just they can be infringed. So absolutely, you need vigilance and strength to defend your rights. The Constitution exists because the Founding Fathers knew your inalienable God-given rights could be infringed upon. And so they said, okay, government can't do this. Funny thing is, it's a piece of paper. And, Michael Malice points out that it's effectively meaningless. People get mad about it. But the reality is, we didn't have free speech the way we know it today 50 years ago. You couldn't swear. It was an obscenity. You can get arrested for swearing. George Carlin got arrested for a comedy routine where he said swear words. And so, I mean, that was effectively a hate speech law. This is why I call the left reactionary. Woke is reactionary. They like to say the right is reactionary. And what reactionary refers to is the French Revolution. You had the left and the right. The reactionaries were people who didn't want the fall of the monarchy. They were, I guess, traditionalists, right wing. So reactionary means it typically refers to people who want things to go back to the way they were. This is what the left is. They want race-based law, pre-civil rights era. They want obscenity laws, pre-free speech. They want us to go back in time to the 1940s and 1950s, back to the way things used to be. Except, of course, for women in the workplace. That, it's not absolute. But they're absolutely reactionary as it pertains to race and other policies like this.
So is that like we have a new world order in this internet-based economy and that we're changing into whatever we want it to be, which it could be an American republic-based, global republic, basically, where we have like localized governments but then there's this reaction to it, which is like, no. Make sure it stays communist and take away rights. We need to make it more amenable to corporate governance. We need to make sure that you don't step out of line with your corporate.
They don't
lord.
want decentralization. They want centralization.
That guy, what's his name?
Yuval Noah Harari.
That's it, Yuval Noah Harari. I just heard a speech that he was doing, I guess from Davos or whatever. And he's saying things like, that we don't actually have the right to, we don't have any rights at all. They're all just fictions. And everything essentially that society does is a fiction. It's all a game that we essentially agree to play. That's what society basically is. We all agree to play by kind of the same rules. And his argument that there are no actual rights, that essentially there's nothing that you have a right to at all, it actually is true, because rights are just concepts that we create. So if you don't have any rights that are natural, that's what the government is for, is to protect individuals. If it's not doing that, then it has there's no value in having the government. So it doesn't matter if you want to have an international order, or if you want to have I'm totally spacing on where my point was.
I get it.
You did it.
I get it, man. It happens.
He did it to me.
Oh, no.
If he's saying that
not enough coffee today, huh?
we're just playing a game, that society is just a game of where we're all kind of accepting this, then
Yeah.
I would counter with when an armed gunman walks into a room and guns down 6 people, were they all playing that game? No, we need rights to protect our ability to defend against that.
But the rights are the thing that we do create in order to protect against that. The rights are their social construct.
Protect against the game getting hijacked?
No, against the real death that happens when someone comes in and decides to not play the game, because the game is actually we get along, we all manage to live together without killing each other, without resorting to violence. That's the game. That's what society is.
Yeah, they talk a lot about civil authority at the World Economic Forum, and the world that's half of the dime. Like, the other side is very gruesome and you need to protect yourself. That's these World Economic Forum dudes, man.
We used to have shared morality.
Mm-hmm.
It was believed that we all recognized certain ththings were right and certain things were wrong. Yeah. Most people did. Now you have the woke with no moral framework at all. I mean, this is it. Prager refers it, what does he call it? Cut stem, or what is it? I always forget this. Cut stem politics or whatever.
I don't know.
That a flower is beautiful. You cut it from its root. You can hold it in the air and it looks beautiful. Then eventually it dies. Mm. And what we are dealing with right now is the far left, ultra progressivists, have been detached from their roots for so long, they are withering.
Yeah, man, there's this like, I want to impose like morality on these people, but until you experience it and learn it for yourself, because I learn from like soldiers. I watch interviews with soldiers and it's like, whether you're watching a guy bleed out and die, whether he's on your side or the enemy side, you're still watching this human bleed out and die. We have rules of law of war to protect against melting human skin off with chemical war.
Yeah, but it's meaningless.
Weapons. Technically, until you witness it, and then you realize why we have those rules.
What does that rule mean?
You don't want someone to spend 20 hours melting
that doesn't
and
mean
screaming. Like, you prefer not to. So we
So by all means, enter a war where you say, we're going to fight by the rules. And the other side says, I will do anything in my power to destroy you. And guess who wins?
Hopefully the whole world unifies against that idiot that will do anything to create some sort of civility.
But I think we've already seen that in the US. I mean, the left has lost their morality basis entirely. Like, they're okay with killing children in the womb. They're okay with calling out Republicans and hating our election system and changing the Constitution. So where does their morality lie if it's not more like they are the immoral? And so how do you teach somebody something is immoral?
I don't think that personally that they actually are concerned with morality. I think that they're concerned with, trying to undo the liberal order that the United States has.
They're concerned with power.
Yeah. They want control.
The point isn't, I've talked about like my opinion is that they are not. They don't believe in the Enlightenment. They believe that like you can speak things into existence. That's why they refuse to, that's why they say, oh, if you call a trans woman a woman, she's actually a woman. Or if you call a trans man a man, they're actually a man. They believe that words have power. They don't believe that you can actually come in contact with reality because everybody's reality is different and stuff. And that's really foreign to the foundational ideas that liberalism is based on. The idea that you can come into contact with reality is the foundation for what is a reasonable person. And the idea of a reasonable person is all over our law. If you look at the way that laws are written, they constantly say what a reasonable person would say, or that you come to a reasonable
But there's
person.
no reasonable people anymore.
Yeah, if you can't agree on what a man or a woman is, if you've got Supreme Court justices that refuse to acknowledge to say what a woman is, that will say I don't know what a woman is or I can't define a woman, then you can't expect that person to be able to say what a reasonable person would think. And that literally, this is serious stuff. This is actually tearing at the foundations of all of our laws, of all of the structure of our whole society, the entire thing. So,
when you're talking about people lack of morality in the government, in the federal momentum at the moment, and that you were suggesting that their focus is untethering or unwinding the liberal economic order to create this new world order. What I see is the way we unwind it is the new world order. So if we use corruptive adaptivity, if we're willing to stomp out political opponents unethically, illegally, to get this thing, that's what the new thing is going to be. The method is the meaning.
The ends do not justify the means because you never meet the ends. The far left makes this argument that the ends justify the means. They say there's an evil dictator in charge, so we must do everything by any means necessary to stop him. Congratulations. How do you now defend your glorious new revolution? By any means necessary. Of course. Great. You're the dictator. That's literally the theme of Will of the People, the song that we released 3 years ago. These people will claim they're fighting for justice, and so their tactics are justified. Their diversity of tactics. But don't worry. When we take over, we're going to put in a bunch of reforms to prevent the brutality. Then, once they take over, they say, well, yeah, but we didn't mean for the fascists. They're fascists. So the way Venezuela views it, the revolution's never ended. The fascist forces have always been trying to take back, and they're in desperate need of defense of the revolution. That's why they have to arrest people and lock them up.
The revolution's always unending. It's the logic of Herbert Marcuse. You have to shut down fascists. You can't let them talk. You have to shut them down at the level of conception of fascist ideas. You have to take control of the language so that way you cannot form fascist arguments.
Well, that's gone haywire with the Federal Reserve getting formed. Obviously, we are living in a fascist system. But what about communists? Because people are saying lately, like, did the McCarthy era not go far enough?
McCarthy did not go far enough.
I understand not shutting down the concept of communism. You need to understand it to watch out for it, to defeat it and circumvent it. You need to know what it is.
Which is why we have red-washed schools. Like, you don't hear about communism. You don't hear about the horrors of communism nearly as much as you should. There has been significantly more death due to communism because it was a system tried in so many different places and has had a much longer time that it was tried. But as a system, it caused more death than Nazism, because Nazism was, everybody ganged up on Nazism to stamp the Nazis out. And yet You hear more about Nazism. Everyone's aware of the 6 million Jews and however many gypsies were killed and all the people that died in the death camps in Nazi Germany. And people are aware that there were gulags in Soviet Russia, and they're aware that there was death in China, communist China, but they don't know how bad, and they don't know about like the real horrible stuff that went on in Eastern Europe. Like Eastern Europe is where the real horror shows were when it came to
The Holodomor. That was
the Holodomor was that
Holodomor?
that was one of them.
Holodomor, is that how you pronounce it? The Holodomor.
Holodomor. There's also that the Martyr Maid has this podcast about, I forget what it's called, but it's about the horrors of a particular communist group, and I'm totally spacing on the name. If the chat knows, I'm sure the chat knows because they know Martyr Maid's podcast. But it was about the things that the communists did. They were absolute monsters, and kids don't know this
because they didn't have cameras like the way that the Allies documented the Nazi camps and and Hitler kind of documented his own behavior for the world to see. But like in Soviet Russia, Stalin was like a mute. No one knew what he sounded like.
No, this is because of people that believe in socialism, so they didn't report things in the West.
Right.
It is an active intent to cover up the horrors. That's what red washing means. Yeah, William Durante was covering up the horrors that the Soviet Union was doing.
Walter.
Walter Durante. There's been plenty of people that were communists, believed in communism, and then because of that, they covered up terrible things that communists have done because they call them excesses, and their attempts to produce the perfect society.
I love how Durante actually was like, "There's no need to actually investigate whether any of these things are actually happening."
God,
what?
Yeah, at the New York Times.
You'd be shocked, man. It's wild.
I kid you not. There are students that I've talked to that tell me, well, communism just hasn't been implemented in the correct way yet. Or socialism hasn't, Cuba, Venezuela, whatever. It's just, it hasn't been done perfectly yet. If we just listened and implemented socialism and communist ideals, like it could work in America. And like that's how far it's gotten in campuses.
I remember my question regarding you talking to people on the street. When you speak to people, are they like, do they realize what is like how much like people always say people on the man on the street things, they only choose certain people that say dumb things. Mm-hmm. When you do this, do you chop very much material to make it? I'm not trying to out your guys for like what's the word, like unethical journalism, but how many people do you meet that are informed, that do know what's going on, versus how many people do you meet that are like, wow, you're almost like a lost cause? Like what's the ratio to that? Because that's what really matters to me.
Okay, I will honestly say Gen Z is very 50-50. And it also depends on the region, what school I'm going to. So I just did a video and I was at UCLA in Beverly Hills. 90%, I asked the question, is America racist? And I had almost every single person tell me, yes, America's racist systemically. You can't be racist against white people, like whatever it is. But then I go to a school like, I went to University of Arizona down in Tucson, and I asked just basic American-based questions, and they could actually answer American history questions. So it's very much, it depends on what school it is. It's very, very regional. And a lot of these kids are transplanters. So, the kids going to UCLA are from all over the place, but they chose that school for a purpose. Socialism or communism or capitalism, I mean, those videos are across the board. We do choose and use almost every single one of the answers we get. So when you see any of my clips, it's not because I picked that person and that person. I'm like, oh, that's going to go the most viral. I mean, I'll talk to our protesters and I'll talk to people inside of our events and genuinely try to get, what is Gen Z thinking? That's always my focus is, I want to show the world this is what Gen Z college students from across the world or across the nation actually think about these issues. And it is pretty split. I was at UCLA and I had a girl reach out to me and she was like, hey, like I was really scared to answer your questions, but I actually am a conservative and I feel like I can't speak out. So there are kids on these campuses that are educated and are informed, but the problem is they're facing so much censorship. They're facing cancel culture. They're facing, their college campuses, their professors absolutely hate them and their ideals. I mean, Harvard, free speech doesn't even exist at Harvard University anymore. And so these kids fear so much to speak out. I mean, nursing students having to learn abortions and having to get, not going to say it, but they're having to bow down to these oligarchs really that are controlling the universities. So they're so silent and they're so scared.
I have an idea. How about the parallel economy forces unify in a pledge to never hire, from this point forward, anyone with a degree from any of the major university systems.
Only
They
because I support a road to redemption.
Especially the UC system.
100%.
I'm going to say this. Yeah.
Maybe like for 5 years.
No.
Because everybody can become.
just don't go.
I don't even say for 5 years. I'm like, we can reassess when we reassess. Like if the UC system comes out and says like, long live America and flies the American flag big and bold and says now everyone's required to take a constitution test and all that stuff, I'd be like, oh, we're good. But right now, I'm thinking about these people you're bringing up. A conservative, what college was she at?
UCLA.
UCLA?
Yeah.
I would never hire her. And I think no company should hire her. I think if she ever steps foot in a building and says, look, I went to UCLA, get out. Like, you mean to tell me that you knew exactly what was going on and you were like, I'd love to have a degree from this institution? I mean, that's like, if you're some regular kid and you got a degree and you're like, honestly, I wasn't really following politics, I just wanted to do like, graphic design and stuff, I'd be like, okay. But if you're like, oh, I was a conservative the whole time and I didn't speak up, but I wanted a degree from UCLA, I'll be like, good luck getting a job in Hollywood. I wish you the best.
Oh, I mean, 80%, I would say, honestly, 70-80% of college students that are conservative on college campuses that aren't speaking out, they're exactly like that. They are just living their lives. Like, I'll just get through college, I'll write the paper, I'll get the A. And they are willing to,
who are you trying to impress?
Values.
The Hollywood
No
pedophiles? No, I mean, like, you're going to UCLA to get a degree? Are you're trying to endear yourself to the Hollywood pedophiles? Well, I don't want to hire you.
Because their whole thing is, well, then how do I get a job? If they don't get the degree and they don't graduate and they don't get the grades and they don't just like silence themselves for 4 years, then where do they go and work?
Well, I can't speak. I can't speak for.
I dropped out.
I can't speak for jobs outside of media. I can tell you, I have not asked about anyone's college degree when hiring here at Timcast. And we have 42 employees, 42, a handful of contractors, so maybe like 37 or 38. But I've not once been like, and where did you graduate college from?
Oh, no, I agree. I think they should. College doesn't matter. In reality, it's a piece of paper. It's so meaningless where if you actually have a craft and you decide, I actually instead want to do this. We have the world's knowledge on our fingertips. You can learn anything. I don't see, like if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, I mean, I understand there are certain things you have to go to college for. But of course, this is why I'm saying parallel economy. I'm not. You don't need any legal requirements to work at a media company. You need to be good at what you do. So if you come to me, for instance, and say, I'd like to work at Timcast, and you're like, I just recently graduated from UCLA, I'd be like, I'm not going to hire you. Who are you trying to impress? You're not trying to impress me. You want to impress me? Tell me you dropped out of school and figured it out on your own. Yeah. Look, I got to be honest. It's not just about the UC system and these corrupt colleges. It's about, in my experience, somebody who decides the path forward is to be told what to do by institutionalized learning facilities is not going to be as skilled or driven as someone who figured it out on their own.
They're not as critically thought. Like the internet or the college was good until about 1996. And then the internet supplanted the nature. Like you said, the information is now available. Unless you can go to college for like a conservatory if you want to study like acting for 4 years and you pay a bunch of money so that you get like 6 lead roles a year and you're surrounded by good actors and you get really good at it, or music or something like that. That's a different story. Like you said, being a doctor, you want to go somewhere where you can do the practice every day.
Well, there's legal requirements there. I can understand that. And you're not trying, and if you're going to set up your own practice or work for someone else, they expect you to have that qualification.
But people that haven't figured it out, that are still going through the motions, are not critical thinkers, not on the level that you need to really get your business ahead.
The hyperpolarization is too pronounced at this point. I mean, when Joy Reid, I love this. Joy Reid was debating the one of the people from Moms for Liberty, one of the women, and was asked about adult objects appearing in books. Joy Reid defended children having access to this, but the Joy Reid X account censored the word because the general public, which is primarily adults, should not see this word, but children should. When we're dealing with someone like that, okay, when you go to one of these major universities because you think you need a degree, I don't know who you're trying to impress because it ain't impressing me. Okay, now if you went to like some very Christian university or whatever, because they exist, or a private or one of these newer ones, they're anti-woke, and you explain, I went here for this reason, I'd be like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool. It's more valuable to me if someone came to me and said, I'm a video editor, and let's say I'm like, I need a video editor, and they came to me and said, here's a bunch of stuff I've made. I'd be like, wow, this is really cool stuff. Can you make more? Great, you're hired. There's no circumstance where I'm like, but hold on, I do like that video. but where did you go to school? That's a completely meaningless.
But tell me about your parents before I hire you.
That's the problem with the college degree system is because they graduate college with absolutely zero experience in the real world. They don't have critical thinking skills. They don't know how to think because they've been told their whole life what to think.
Yes.
That's the problem.
I'll give a shout out to Carter Banks, our music producer. I don't even know if he went to school or not. He just made a video where he was like, hey, hire me. And then a few months later, Ian was like, yo, check out this video. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a really good video. We should hire this guy.
Yes.
And then we did.
He will do more of that. And he certainly does.
So I think Gen Z should go and learn a craft. If you're passionate about something,
100%.
go master that craft, be really, really good at it, and then go do it.
Yeah.
We have to build the parallel economy.
That's it. I mean,
You don't need a degree to be a journalist. You don't need a degree to go on TV.
No.
it's kind of crazy that right now, a lot of these Gen Z people, younger Gen Z people are like, I need to go to college to get a degree. And there's this viral meme on TikTok where it's a guy sitting on a bench and he's like, I forgot what it was. It was like me with my economics degree watching an illegal immigrant get a free housing and free food.
Yes.
And he's just like,
Well, it's true. You're graduating with
and he's
tons
like,
of
I can't
debt.
get unemployed me sitting on a park bench while illegal immigrants are getting free money. And I'm just like, yeah, you're in debt. You can't afford anything. The degree was worthless. They lied to you. Man.
Like it shows the guy in the economics classroom, like third year in macroeconomics studying. And then the other guy on his phone, like third year trading Bitcoin. I'm at 7.7 billion. Like let me talk about real economics.
I'll tell you guys one of the stories I've often mentioned. I knew somebody who was in college, third year, music business major. And we were hanging out, and I was like, oh, blah, 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 talking, oh, you're doing music business. And then I was like, so what do you do? Like, what does music business mean? Like record label stuff? And they were telling me like, yeah, like record label deals, setting up shows, things like that. And I was like, oh, cool. How many shows have you set up? And she's like, none. And I was like, none? You've been in college for 3 years for music business and you've not done any shows? She's like, no, we're learning. And I was like,
They don't teach them how to
I'm
do
a
it.
high school dropout and I've set up 3 or 4 already.
Yeah.
I'm not even interested in music business. My friends were just wanted to do a show. And so I called around some venues and talked to the owner about setting up a show. You mean that I have more experience in the workforce than you? How much money did you spend? $30,000 a year.
Jeez, dude.
Some ridiculous
and
number.
a lot of the schools are teaching the kids or the people, the adults, how things used to work.
Learn
Oh,
how-
yeah.
And
not
things
how
are
it's
changing
working
so
now.
rapidly. Yeah, like in 2 years, AI is going to completely transition the game of making music, making painting, art, that kind of
I
stuff.
mean, imagine going to school for computer science and learning how to program, but you can learn how to program actually in real time now just on your
exactly.
laptop. Not to mention, you were talking about like the economics meme, the affirmative action policies. You have these kids that are graduating colleges every single year, hundreds of thousands of kids, if not millions, and they can't even get a job in this job market because it's impossible with affirmative action policies in these corporations. Plus, they don't want to hire you because you have absolutely zero experience. But how are you supposed to get experience? That's why you have so many college-educated people that are waiting tables and working these no-name, like, useful jobs that we need in our country. But, they thought that going to college, and they bought into the lie, they bought into the scam, and they're going to spend and get in more debt to get a PhD, to get a master's, that hundreds of thousands of other people are getting MBAs too, and they're going to be stuck doing absolutely nothing.
They're going to be going, hello, sir. I have nothing unique about me. I have the exact same qualifications as 10,000 other people. Pick me. I'd be like, well,
That is why I dropped out of college.
when people go to college, or when young people go to college, I feel like they go too frequently with no idea what they're going to do. So they take a liberal arts degree or whatever they're not going with the intent of learning a specific thing. And obviously this is not everybody. So if you're going to learn something, not every comment I make is for everyone, but there are too many people that go to college with no idea what they want to do. And those people would be far better served learning to do something, like learning a trade or something, because you don't have to do the trade forever, but at the very least, you get out of the shorter and less expensive school that you were in with the ability to actually do something. And if you want to do something else, you can have this trade to at least provide you with the ability to make a living and pay for your roof over your head and stuff.
I don't know, you guys, I love learning in a way I wasn't like that in my 20s. In my 20s, I was just waiting for school to be over with. But now, like, I enjoy learning the data and putting the pieces together in a new way. So you can always go to college when you're older if you really want to go. But I mean, you just don't need that kind of Well, not everyone needs that kind of intensified learning environment.
Also, I love learning, but I don't think that college is actually fostering intelligence anymore.
So I have done video editing, edited vlogs, edited documentaries, edited many documentaries. I never went to school for video editing. When I was 14, I started using Premiere to make skate videos. I also used Shockwave because anybody remember what Shockwave was?
Yeah.
You were
it's
actually
an audio thing.
But you could do video too. And so there were some elements of it I could use for video editing. I didn't know or care. And I used Macromedia Flash before it became Adobe and to make websites because I wanted to. And I learned how to do all these things. And then here I am working in media.
Video editing back in the day
like-
where they'd have like multiple tapes and the tape decks. You had to go like learn how to turn the wheels to slow down one tape and cut. I remember doing that.
A lot of me feels like the fact that people don't have that kind of gut feeling that they're free is part of the fact that people kind of don't have the gut feeling that I can go try this. You know, it's like they don't have the impulse to be like, oh, let me go ahead and try doing this and make mistakes and mess up and learn, you know, by experimenting, as opposed to they feel like they need some kind of formal training, formal instruction.
They've been told their whole life that they have to go to college. This is how to think. This is what to think. And then you're going to graduate and have no idea what you're doing. You go to college to find yourself, but you end up losing yourself and having no idea what you want to do with your life.
We're going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all of your friends and family members. Tell them it's the best show ever. Everyone agrees. At least that's what I've been told. And head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, because the uncensored members only show will be live at 10 p.m. tonight. And it's always good fun. You as members actually get to call in to talk to us. Granted, you need to sign up, I think, well before the show, submit your questions, and then we bring about 5 callers in every night. So it is a tight fit, but please engage with us. Not only that, as a member of the Discord, you get to hang out for the pre-shows, the after-shows, everyone in there. They're all arguing with each other. It's just a lot of fun. And so we encourage all of that.
Rules.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. But now we will read your Super Chats. All right, Big 7588 with the first Super Chat saying, education can fix America's healthcare problem. You're right, but I do think education means cultural issues as well, right? Like, we need a culture of people who aren't gorging themselves. Yo, look, I got to be honest. We went out for lunch, for dinner. I don't know what you call it. It was like 2:30 or 3 p.m. What is that? That's dinner, right?
Dinner.
Or supper?
Lunch, dinner, supper.
I don't know. And I was like, I'm going to get a cheeseburger. You know, I don't eat a lot of bread, but I was like, I think I'll just, I'm going to have a cheeseburger today. Because I don't like the absolute elimination stuff where it's like I just do keto only. Like Monday, the only thing I ate was salami.
Just salami.
No, like literally nothing but salami. I had 2 protein shakes and a bunch of salami, and it was awesome. And I love it because it's like it's uncooked or whatever. But then I'm like, nah. Then I'll have something regular the next day. Yo, it was too big. It was this big. It was a burger that like it was that big, and then you turn it and it's like that, and I'm like, I don't know how to bite this.
I would break the rules and get a fork and knife to eat a cheeseburger.
I was thinking like, if I had known it was going to be this big, I'd have split it with my girlfriend, and we would have been happy to do so, because I'm like, this has got to be like 2,000 calories, and it was like a higher end place.
Big as Allison's head.
It's like a restaurant, not like a fast food place. It was like an actual restaurant. Yeah, it was ridiculous. So we want to make America better. Our healthcare problem. People got to learn how to eat better.
Get rid of the gigantic portions. I understand, like,
more protein in your diet.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I learned this. This is crazy. I did not realize, man. People do not get enough protein in their diet.
No.
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
And I've known that as a general fact, but I didn't realize how much. So I started tracking my protein, and I was low. And I was like, how can that be possible? I have 2 protein shakes every day. Not enough.
Nope.
A single scoop of protein powder is 20 to 24 grams of protein, and you need like 60 or more. Yeah, way more than that.
If you're exercising and if you're exercising and doing like cardio, so you're burning a lot of calories as well as lifting weights or whatever, and you want to just maintain the weight that you have and not lose muscle mass, you should be eating at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That means I need to eat like 175 grams just to maintain.
Wow.
If you want to actually gain muscle in the most efficient way you can, you need at least 1.5 grams of protein per 1
See, that's crazy, because I was averaging like 50. And then I read that if I'm being sedentary and not exercising, it's like 70. And so I'm like, I should do 2 protein shakes every day. And then I tried doing a double scoop. It was disgusting.
Do you have milk with them?
No, but I put cream. I put cream in it. So so I got casein protein.
Yep.
And because people in the chat were like, drink casein at night. So I've been doing a casein protein shake before bed. I do Jocko Molk, the best protein powder I've ever had. They don't pay me to endorse, but holy crap, it's the best you will ever have. No question.
What about cricket protein?
Disgusting. But the Jocko Molk stuff is it's like, I think it's whey casein. There's no artificial sweetener garbage in it. It's monk fruit. It's like actual, yeah. So I'm like, thank you. Jocko knows what's up. And so I've been doing I do one of those. I do it, and that's only like 44, 45 grams of protein. And then I'm just like, damn.
I try and get 4 big glasses of milk a day because that's about 80 grams of protein if you have 4 of them. And that's not
Are you on the raw milk train?
No.
Yo, this is crazy though. Look, the other people
lactose intolerance. I drink the super processed milk.
We skated. I think we skated on Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. And after I'm done skating, I immediately make a protein shake. It's I think it's probably like a pint of water. I do about probably, I don't know, like an 1/8 cup of cream, and then a scoop of protein powder of Jocko Molk, and then I drink that fairly quickly. Then the next day, no soreness at all.
Yeah.
Everybody else, they're like, I'm too sore to skate. I can't skate. I'm tired.
Protein.
The thing is, if you're experiencing like excessive muscle pain from exercising and stuff, add more protein. And if Tim, you might want to try adding skim milk instead of water because it's super thin. It's got consistent, but it's got extra protein too. So skim milk might be something you want to try. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
but like
into it or not.
I'm adding fat to
milk.
it.
Huh?
I'm adding fat to the shake.
Well, you could add more. You could add whole milk if you wanted.
There you
yes,
go.
but try
there's
making
a lot of sugar in whole milk.
Try making it with the shake with skim.
Yeah, they got some stuff like Fairlife has like 50% less sugar and stuff like that.
I drink so much Fairlife. I got
You're lactose intolerant, right? Like I am as well. Yeah.
And I've also my acid reflux and stuff is really.
It helps so much. It's wild.
Oh God.
Have y'all tried A2 milk?
Same
what
thing,
is it?
Similar thing.
Yeah.
It's got the lactase enzyme added to it basically. So
Yeah,
Let's,
different cows.
Let's move on. We'll read some more super chats because we're getting wrapped up in diet stuff. But I'm also excited for the cold plunge that we just got.
yes.
Oh yeah. And we went to this like heated pool at this resort, and we're rolling around. Me and Richie Jackson were rolling around in the snow and then jumping in the pool like over and over again. And it was probably really bad for us, but I don't know if it felt
You got to film when you do the cold plunge.
We got to read more.
Have you
film
figured
when
out
you do
what
the cold plunge.
temperature you're going to do the cold plunge at?
Not there yet. Why don't you set it up? All right, let's read more. All right, Fraxinus says Vivek and Lake 2028.
Ooh.
That'll be fun.
You think Kari Lake's going to be Trump's VP?
I'm a Vivek girl.
Me too.
I don't-
Except I'm not a girl.
I don't. The challenge though is the VP needs to be someone who gets new votes. So like
That's true.
Burgum actually makes sense.
I think Trump's so famous he doesn't need any new votes.
I think Vivek can get the Gen Z votes, though.
Right.
Yeah, he does. Yep.
That's the solution. Gen Z
That's-
is going to be the largest voting bloc going into 2024's election. There's no other candidate that's actually talking to Gen Z other than Vivek.
And he had the highest number of first-time voters in Iowa.
Exactly.
That's a good point, actually. Trump.
You want to get the Gen Z vote? Vivek. And I think
Because-
he can actually talk to the more moderate Democrat, liberal people that are on college campuses and get them to change their minds.
Anybody who likes Kari Lake likes Trump.
True.
It's so Vivek makes a lot of sense because he actually does get a lot of younger people. All right, Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, it's a beautiful thing to see states backing Texas. It's about time state government stood up to a corrupt federal government. It can lead to bad things, but it needs to be done. So I say forward the line. Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Hear, hear.
It's an ex-Marine saying that too.
Pierce Wersig saying, hey, Tim, I was at daily mass this morning. My priest mentioned we are in a civil war and talked about it. The FBI watching Christian conservatives and people who bought Bibles. That's right. I wonder if he watches the show. The federal government was spying on people, asking financial institutions to track those who bought Bibles.
Like
Guys, what do you think they're doing that for? And where do you think that leads?
This goes back to what we were saying earlier. They're all the stuff that you're concerned about that you talked about earlier that we were saying, oh, maybe in the future. They've already done it.
The
They're
tracking
doing it.
mechanisms have been in place for like 20 years.
Well, look how they were shutting down churches in 2020.
Yeah. It's all built in.
All right, here's a very important one to follow up. Quispy Joe says, Tim, he says, sorry, he didn't say my name. He said, what is your favorite Tony Hawk game and why? 3.
Why?
It was when things got smoothed out. I believe it was the PS3. It was when it got you had a PS3 version. It introduced Bam Margera. It introduced reverts and flips, but it didn't get to the point where after that it got so insanely complicated and it just got weird. It was still arcade. It was still a lot of fun. The airport, best level, but also Canada was a pretty good level. Tony Hawk 3, that was my favorite. I mean, Tony Hawk 2 is the classic. Tony Hawk 1's like, yeah, it's fun. Tony Hawk 2 was like, this game is a classic. Tony Hawk 3 is my favorite. What about you?
I only played one of them. It was on like 1996, and it was on the PS1.
No, you didn't.
Then I played a skateboard game back then.
Maybe Skate or Die in 96?
No, I used to play Skate or Die on the Nintendo in the 80s, though.
Because the first Tony Hawk game, I believe, was 99.
Skate or Die was awesome.
Skate or
Two-player.
Die.
That
Yeah.
game was sweet, constantly going downhill.
All right, let's grab some more super chats. Meldarian S says, Tulsi Gabbard for VP. That will send Dems into a frenzy and get some Dems and a lot of libs. That is true. Tulsi Gabbard will get a lot of the anti-war liberal vote.
Maybe she what I would, if she was going to be VP, she's got to start making more noise right now.
You know, I believe she is one of the better contenders. It makes sense. Military service, political service, she's got experience, and she attacks politically in areas that Democrats are trying to control. You know, like Tulsi Gabbard would work for moderate liberal types. Makes sense. I'm not saying she's the best. I think Vivek is pretty good. All right, let's grab some more super chats. Let's see where we are. Alahad says, hi, Tim. Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro song this Friday. Oh, boy.
Ben Shapiro and Tom McDonald did a song?
I didn't know they did a song together.
Is it
Well,
real?
we were talking to, I don't know what they ended up doing, but Ben plays violin.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had pitched this idea.
Shred too. I've never heard it.
Oh, he does.
Oh, I bet he's
Have you-
so
are you
good.
serious?
You know, I want to jam with him though. That's awesome.
He's very good.
We had pitched this last year. We never actually got around to it. So I hope they actually pull off something because it should be done. But I was like, we got to get like Michael Knowles, Ben Shapiro, Jack Posobiec, James O'Keefe, because they all play music. They're all musicians, and just, you know, own the libs. It'd be funny.
We should go on tour.
Make a song called "Owning the Libs" by Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Jack Posobiec, Tim Pool, Ian Crossland, Phil Labonte.
Cassandra just messaged that Glenn Youngkin posted on Twitter, Virginia stands with Texas.
Oh,
Yeah, this is on Glenn Youngkin's official Twitter account from
there you go.
5 minutes ago.
Beto O'Rourke posted the opposite, but nobody cares about him. So
Interesting.
Of course, Beto O'Rourke posted the opposite.
And maybe we'll pull this up, but it says Greg Abbott, Texas is doing the job Joe Biden and his border czar refused to do to secure our border. The Biden administration has turned every state into a border state.
Yo.
We must stop the flow of fentanyl, save lives, and secure our southern border.
wow, shout out Glenn Youngkin. Wow, he's not been the best, but you know, he's doing enough.
You know, and someone just mentioned yesterday, Glenn Youngkin has like really, really, really high approval rating in Virginia. The point that they made was, look, all you have to be is like not a crazy person, and you'll get treated well. But so the fact that he is looked at as reasonable by his constituents and is not thought of as a MAGA extremist or whatever, although obviously anyone that goes and says that they support Texas, the media will be immediately sliming them tomorrow. So you expect hit pieces by the end of the week on whoever.
They're going to say, look at all these southern states.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly like you said. You said this today. They pointed out Southern intentionally to make that connection to the Civil War and slavery.
Gen X Statesman says, as a Texan, my only real question is this: will I get to see the Civil War movie before the Civil War? We mentioned this before the show when we were getting production set up. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if right before the movie comes out, the country breaks up into the exact map of the movie?
Dude, I know. The only thing missing would be California. I don't know how they're gonna secede to it. Like it's
Independence.
Florida, Texas, right?
No, the map had five factions.
Right.
It had the Western forces.
The Western Alliance.
It had the Southern states. Then it had Texas and California, and then the Loyalist states.
Right.
So Texas and California became their own countries.
Yeah.
And the republics of California and Texas were aligned insofar as they were defending their sovereignty from the Union.
Right.
Or at least that's what I believe the trailer is, the story is so far. We'll see. When's that movie coming out? Do we know?
I was wondering that today. I have no idea.
I will go see that movie. I wonder if it'll make $1 billion. Like nobody Aquaman came out the other day, right?
Looks like it's scheduled to be April 12th,
April 12th.
2024.
So I decided I'll watch Aquaman. Holy crap. Do you know what Aquaman 2 is about?
What?
The bad guy is trying to warm the planet to make global warming.
You're joking.
I'm not kidding. He discovers this ancient technology that uses this
It's
fuel.
like, first we will heat the oceans, then the world.
No, he finds
That'd be a good
ancient
line.
technology. He's trying to, he wants revenge on Aquaman. He finds ancient technology. And then the scientist working for him is like, this used to be all ice. And he goes, man, thank God for global warming. And like, yes. Then he finds these technology and this creature is like, the bad guy is like, find the fuel and then revive me. And so then he steals this fuel from Atlantis in these raids. And then it's called the orichalcum. And then they're asking like, Aquaman's like, why are they stealing this fuel? And they're like, back when we were a younger civilization, we were using fuel that released a lot of greenhouse gases and was destroying the planet. But we learned and we couldn't properly dispose of it. So we stored it safely and guarded it. And now he's taking it. And then they find out he's been warming the planet. And they're like, what's causing these plagues underwater? And it's like, the planet's being warmed over the past several months. I'm not kidding. Like, it's wild. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
That's so annoying.
I really hope
Yeah.
their box office numbers are just down the drain.
Oh, it was. It was
Okay, good.
really, really bad. You want to look up the box office for Aquaman 2? I think it was
Please do.
apocalyptic.
I was reading about
Please do.
orichalcum. It's an actual thing.
And this is why nobody watches Hollywood
From the
anymore.
story of Atlantis, apparently
Yeah.
it's a gold, resembled gold, but its value is inferior. Were you looking at box office of what?
Aquaman 2.
Aquaman.
Yeah, really, really bad cringe. Sorry.
Is it still, what's his name? Is the Aquaman?
Yeah, Khal Drogo.
Jason.
Yeah, Momoa.
Momoa. What's the
I
box
do like
office?
Momoa. 373 million
Wow.
with a potential lifetime haul of 400 million.
Culture is fractured. Like the
Yeah,
Marvel
for real.
movies are done.
much.
Nobody cares.
No one's watching them.
So I tried to watch the Marvels because I'm like, I'm not gonna go see it in theaters, but it's like we went to this resort and they had it on the TV. It is awful.
Is this the woman one? Like the
Yeah.
feminist garbage? Yeah, it's horrible.
No, but like, wow, made for home DVD. No, I'm for real. Like the villain, it was like played by a woman who never acted before or something. I was just like, wow.
Jeez, dude.
Like I'll be honest, the young woman who plays Kamala Khan, she's really good. The Brie Larson actually also really good. Like I'm not a big fan of her. I think she's a wrong character for the role, but the acting is like on par with Hollywood. Nah, the woman who played the villain, I was just like, I don't think she's actually acting. Like it feels like someone copy and pasted themselves into the movie because they wanted to be in it. I'm not trying to be a dick.
Well,
Somebody's
no
daughter or
disrespect. But
That's a feature or that's a phenomenon that happens a lot. Writers write themselves into
Yeah.
movies as the hero. And
No,
it
but I
usually
mean,
means
like-
that it's going to be a bad movie.
But I mean, like the woman couldn't act. Like she doesn't fit. It's like someone superimposing themselves over Jabba the Hutt to be like, I am Jabba the Hutt, and you're like, that's not real.
I'm glad you shouted out Brie Larson because I think she's very talented and has been put in some horrible roles. Or
Yeah, but she's also-
accepted some horrible roles.
She's had some real bad PR for
Captain
being kind of
Marvel.
nasty.
The PR.
But yeah, bad role. All right, let's read some more. You're, what does it say? Ursavite? Tucker's statement was dumb. How about Tucker use his massive following and platform to help us mobilize? It cannot just be a few Texans going down there. Need to be many. We need to help organizing. I don't know exactly what should be done, but what I can tell you what you can do is make money, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So we're in West Virginia. I think we got to take care of our communities, and it would be silly. I do think it would be silly for like West Virginia or Virginia to rush full speed to Texas to organize whatever. Texas will deal with Texas, and we'll give them our support from afar, like we're seeing now with the governors. It would be absurd if everyone just flocked to one state, because then you're basically centralizing everything, and then they could just crush you that way. You need to make Virginia great again, make Oklahoma, make West Virginia, work on your states to improve them, and do what you can to help make your community stronger, because if things get dark, the people who live near you and around you, you guys got to be organized yourselves. But man, church used to be that, people would go to church. And all right, let's grab some more here. Zirgi says, I'm looking for help. My father almost died earlier this month, having his second leg amputated. He is one of the many affected by the water at Camp How do you pronounce it?
Lejeune.
Lejeune. I'm trying to reach Vivek or Trump, seeing as Biden has failed him. I have no idea.
There are ads that I hear
those
regularly
class action lawsuits?
about the Camp Lejeune water situation. So Google the Camp Lejeune, you should Google the class action lawsuit about the water at Camp Lejeune. I hear ads. There's programs where there is lawsuits that you can get make yourself a part of or whatever to hopefully help give you a hand.
All right. Ryan, the Eating Warrior, says, good luck owning a house now. The only people that could get a home in a few years will be the people making $150K plus or an illegal immigrant that has been gifted a house by the U.S. government. Chaos will erupt. Yo, when I was trying to buy my first house, I was denied by everybody. And it was actually pretty crazy. Because I'm like, hey, I've worked for these big companies. I run my own company. Here's how much money I'm making. And this was after Fusion. And they said, you're unemployed. We will not give you a loan. And I was like, I'm not unemployed. I'm self-employed. And they're like, what's the difference?
Yep.
They really want you to work for someone else. It's safer. Fortunately, my bank, who I'd been with for like a decade, said, we know how much money you have. We know how much money comes in. We know what jobs you've had. This is a safe bet for us. And I was able to get a loan to buy a house. When we were trying to come out here, same problem. And at this point, I'm like, okay, now I have a top 100 podcast. Mm-hmm. I'm making lots and lots of money. I could buy a house in cash. And they were like, sorry, no loan. And then it took months. And then finally, after it was really weird. Different agents kept handing us off, dropping the call. And I was like, something weird is going on.
Isn't that crazy? You have the collateral in hand. You could literally be like, I will open a bank account at your bank and put this money into the account as collateral.
Don't care.
And they don't care.
And
it's crazy.
I think it had a lot to do with what we're seeing with these big investment firms buying up property. They're thinking to themselves, I don't care to do a loan with this guy, because these big institutions, it's much, much easier for them to just buy and the price are going, what's the point? Mm-hmm. But I wonder if part of it is conspiratorial. They don't want young people buying houses.
Oh, they don't want you to own anything.
Yeah. They want you to own nothing and be happy.
Yeah.
And so when I come along and I'm like, I want to buy this house, they're like, no. So actually what ended up happening is the place we're in now is it's not personally my house. It's the studio. It's where we do everything. So I actually ended up having to buy a house. The house I ended up buying, I did buy in cash because no one would give me a loan for it. And I'm talking to these different brokers and I said, listen, man, I was like, you got to break this down for me. How am I not able to get a loan for a house? And they're like, well, the economic factors and your credit score. I was like, my credit score is one of the best in the country. And they're like, well, And then I was like, I'm just going to say it. I'm like, my guy, I'm a millionaire. I don't want to just drop the money on a house. I'm trying to get a loan through your institution. Sorry, we can't help you. And I was just like, holy crap. So I wrote a check. I bought it in cash. Now, look, I'm not saying it to brag. I'm saying that something is wrong in this country.
Yeah.
When I struggled to get a loan for a house, I told the guys, I was like, listen, dropping all that money at once is risky and scary because it's basically like my retirement, my savings. This is what I have. I have it saved up. I could buy a house with it. But if I do a loan, I understand I'm giving the bank money, but it allows me to budget more effectively for emergencies. And multiple institutions said absolutely
I wonder
not.
if they were like, because of inflation, because of all the money that was printed in a year, your $6,000 a month loan repayment is going to be worth $5,400.
Yep.
Right.
So we're just going to hold on. We're going to take your $800,000 now and spend it before it becomes worth $680,000.
That's exactly it. One of the reasons that I'm thinking a loan is good is because if the buying power of a dollar is dropping dramatically due to inflation and COVID, having a loan is great because the debt becomes worthless. And that's probably why they're like, we're not giving out loans right now.
I took out a loan right before COVID happened to build a studio, it was right in the beginning of COVID, to build a studio at Chicopee, the place that we got, because I was like, inflation's coming. I was like, I know it. And now, it's worked out really, really well because, I built a whole studio and now
how is Gen Z going to buy houses?
I can't
They're not.
imagine.
We're going to have to build them.
Physically, Gen Z will not be able to afford houses. I was watching a video that the amount of money that you make versus the average cost of what you need to have a house has completely flip-flopped. That Gen Z now, you're making like $80,000, $70,000 if you're lucky a year, and you can hardly afford, you're buying a shoebox apartment for $2,000 a month plus your living expenses. They have no savings.
Yeah.
Majority of Gen Z has no savings. They're not going to be able to buy houses, but they don't want them to.
All right. Omega Rasetsu says, Tim, the U.S. has not been a constitutional republic since before the Civil War. since before the Civil War. Since then, the U.S. has been a federal republic. Look up federal republic. Interesting. Makes sense. Makes sense. Reconstruction, occupation, etc.
Yeah.
Let's grab some more. YouTube's been really busted up.
I know,
lately.
man.
I thought maybe something was wrong with the memory in the computer. It's not.
No, it's not. It's YouTube itself.
Yeah, it's the YouTube backend is like does
Yeah,
not
trust me.
work.
I know exactly what you mean.
All right. I'm trying to grab some more super chats, but I'm having trouble scrolling. Yep.
Super weird. I don't know what's going on with it, man.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We got a good one here. Let's see if I can actually read it. Phil Parnell says, I'm active duty USAF staff sergeant. I don't know a single troop who is supporting this administration. Some aren't very big Trump supporters, and many really, really like Vivek, but Trump is definitely the favorite in the enlisted. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Stick says, these corrupt deals behind closed doors with politicians are funded by black books. The intel agencies tied with cartels make money from what is happening at the border. Kari Lake would shut down their gravy train. I want to tell you, I made this point earlier on one of my morning segments talking about this. When he says back east, it's what I'm being told. So I hear from many of the people in gaming that MGM National Harbor is the highest grossing casino in the country. I don't know that that's true. What I do know is the games at MGM are some of the most expensive games I've ever seen, and I can't believe it. You want to play blackjack? $50.
Whoa.
Like you'll get lucky if you find a $25 per hand table.
Wow.
Yeah, but and even more. And I'm walking by and it's like a roulette table and I'm like $100 minimum bet. And I'm like, who is playing at this casino? You go upstairs to poker and it's $1 $3. It's a relatively cheap game to play. Just, look, you're going to buy in between, I think, $100 and $500, so you got to be able to afford that. But I asked somebody familiar with the gaming industry why the games are so expensive. And I don't know if this is true. So I want to make sure that's clear. MGM seems like a fine establishment. But he said, dirty politics, money laundering. You're a few miles outside of D.C.
Makes sense.
Somebody needs to figure out a deal. So here, I'll give you a scenario that I'm not saying it's any one casino that does this. How could a foreign dignitary, emissary, diplomat, corporate executive give $100,000 to an American political entity? You can't hand that money off.
No.
It's illegal.
No.
You can't wire transfer it. It's illegal. Tell you what you can do.
You can lose it to him in poker.
You absolutely can lose it to him in poker.
Exactly.
Yup. Ian caught it right
Does
away.
he have to pay taxes? The
Oh, yeah,
winner
of
got to pay
course.
just a 30% some tax.
That's right, 28% on gambling winnings. So what happens is they go up to they go to these poker rooms, legal, totally legal, and they say, I want to play a high stakes game, $100,000. They buy in, the recipient buys in, and then all they have to do is wait for the right moment where it's really easy. The recipient says, when I scratch my nose, it means I've got the best hand. And then the guy who's giving the bribe says, got it. They play a game of poker for a couple hours. The board runs out. The recipient scratches his nose. And then the briber goes, I'm all in, and shoves $100,000 in the middle of the table. And then the guy who's supposed to receive the bribe goes, ha, your bluff won't work on me. I've got the nuts. I call. The guy giving the bribe goes, oh, you got me. You just won $100,000 off me. Fair and square and completely legally, sir. Drat. Make sure when you're passing this bill that's going to benefit my company, you dot the I's and cross the T's, because I don't want it to come back and pay again.
And then they do it where the cameras are off, and then they just do the.
You could do that on camera and get away with that.
But if you do it enough times on camera, people might take
That's
notice.
true.
Send different people.
Good point.
No,
Yeah.
but all the casinos got cameras everywhere. But the point is, if they ever come to you and say, why did this guy give you money? He didn't give me money. He lost in poker. How dare you imply it was a gift? I won
gives you-
fair and square. That's my money.
It gives you plausible deniability.
Yep.
That's
They
all you
can't
need.
prove
Yep.
that it was a bribe. They can't prove that you knew you were going to win, or that he that there was anything going on.
Yep.
They can't prove it. And if they can't prove it,
Yeah, you just need that reasonable doubt, man. Just a little bit of reasonable doubt.
I'm for it. You know,
Not just that, but even if you were just to go into a casino and go to the bar and slide someone a couple pumpkins, those are $1,000 chips. If the person leaving cashes those out, he just says, "Oh, I won." And what are they going to do? Track down the cameras of exactly when it happened? They don't even do that. So pumpkins, and they got crazy bigger ones. All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, tell them all it is the best show. Everyone agrees. At least that's what I've been told. And become a member at timcast.com because the uncensored show will be coming up in about a minute or so. You don't want to miss it. It's not so family friendly. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Morgan, do you want to shout anything out?
Shout out Turning Point. Thank you, Tim, for having me. And if you guys want to follow me, if you can spell my name, you can find me, Morgonn. And yes, that is my real name.
Right on.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, YouTube, the internet. Oh, and the left lane is for crime.
And I'm Ian Crossland. Your chat was wild today. I really enjoyed popping in and reading what you guys are typing. So keep it up. Keep doing it. I love it. I'll see you later.
Yeah, chat is always wild. I love you guys in chat. You're cool. I'm Serge.com. Let's go to the after show.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.